sure we get them all in by midnight. Please take a seat so we can get started. Good evening, everyone. I'll begin today's meeting by asking Vice President Wayne Walker to make a general announcement for our guests.
Thank you, Madam President. I was going to say I thought it was cold outside, but we have such a wonderful crowd here. So we really always find exciting to perform this most important public service of educating our kids, our family, and our city. At every board meeting, a representative from the Deaf Hearing Communication Center is here to provide sign language interpretation of the proceedings. We always express our thanks to them for this work. Representatives from the Office of Family and Community Engagement are stationed in the lobby to help with interpretation services. The proceedings of this meeting are being streamed live on the internet at www.philasd.org/live and can be seen on PSTV's Comcast Channel 52 and Verizon Fios Channel 20. The proceedings are also being recorded by the School District of Philadelphia. The school district's recordings are protected by the copyright laws of the United States and may not be used in any manner without the express written consent of the school district. By participating in tonight's meeting, members of the public acknowledge that the school district may use its recordings for any purpose without obtaining permission or paying any compensation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Vice President Walker. Before this meeting, the board and Dr. Height recognized our School District of Philadelphia teachers who've recently earned or renewed their National Board Certification. The National Board Certification was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvement in schools nationwide. It's the most respected professional certification available in K through 12 education. These educators have gone above and beyond to demonstrate that they have met the profession's highest standards for accomplished practice, and it's no small feat to accomplish. There's a lot of hard work that goes into obtaining the National Board Certification, so I would like to thank the following teachers and their mentors, who are also district teachers, for their commitment to their craft and for their commitment to Philadelphia students and schools. Please stand when I call your name, and I'd like to ask that the audience withhold its applause until we've recognized all of our distinguished teachers. The following teachers have earned their National Board Professional Teachers Teaching Standard Certification: Amal Gilkins from Science Leadership Academy, Catherine Lauer, Hill Freeman World Academy, Teresa Lauer, Laura Academy at Palumbo, and Allison Marzullo, Academy at Palumbo. Congratulations. Please remain standing. I'd also like to call the names of the teachers who've renewed their certification for an additional 10 years. Joshua Block from Science Leadership Academy, Jane Cordero, Hill Freeman World Academy, Anne Marie Gibbons, Olney Elementary, Shannon Hogan, Engineering and Science High School, Rebecca Horner, Pollock Elementary, and Keith Hung from Central, Kimberly Jones, Cook Wissahickon Elementary, Jennifer Lowe, Cayuga Elementary, Darlene Schaefer, Penn Alexander, Allison Walters, Meade Elementary, Erica West Saunders, Science Leadership Academy Middle School, and Christine Xiao-Huit, Franklin Learning Center. I'd like to also ask that any of the teachers' mentors who are with us stand as well so we can recognize you. And I invite everybody to give these wonderful educators a round of applause. we're all very proud. I don't know if any other board members wants to offer any other comments. We recognize people downstairs. So congratulations. And Dr. McGinley?
Well, I would just reiterate what I said downstairs, how proud we are and how thankful we are that you are leaders in your classroom, leaders in your buildings, and leaders in the educational community. And when I made my remarks, I didn't realize how many people were renewing at the 10-year mark. And I think 10 years ago, you all swore you would never do that because of the work and the rigor that goes into this process. So thank you for going at it. Once again, you're a great example for your peers. Thank you.
Now we'll have a performance by the talented students of Franklin Learning Center. They're directed by Michelle Frank. Please join me in welcoming the Franklin Learning Center Bob Tones.
Selfish kinds of love. This time that I realize that there's someone alone, not a nickel too long. Could it be really me pretending that you're not alone? A willow deeply scarred, somebody's broken heart, and a washed out dream. They follow the pattern of the wind you see, 'cause they got nowhere to be. That's why they started with me. I started with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make that change. I started with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make the change. You gotta get it right while you got the time. When you close your heart, make a change, make a change, make a change, make a change. Make that change, make a change, make a change, make a change, make a change.
You may write me down in the history with your bitter, twisted line. You may drag me down in the very dirt, still like the dust I rise. Does my happiness upset you? Are you best alone? 'Cause I laugh like I've got an oil well pumping in my living room. So you may shoot me with your perfume, you may cut me with your eyes. I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise, rise, rise. Out of the shanks of history shame, I'm from a past rooted in pain. I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise, rise. Now did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, with shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my confidence upset you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I walk like I've got a diamond line breaking up in my front yard. So you may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes. I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. In the shack of history shame, in the root of blood and pain, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may track me down in the very dirt, but still like the dust I'll rise. Does my happiness upset you? Or are you best with gloom? 'Cause I laugh like I've got an oil well pumping in my living room. So you may shoot me with your words, you may pump me with your eyes. And I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. Out of the shacks of history shames, or from a past rooted in pain, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. Out of the shacks of history shame, or from a past rooted in pain, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes. I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. I'm gonna rise, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise.
I want to thank you all for a really inspiring performance. It makes days like our long day today so worthwhile. Thank you so much, and want to thank Michelle Frank, who is who's leading the music program, I guess, for the work that she's doing. Thank you so much. We'll now begin our regular business with roll call. Ms. Rauch, please make an announcement about the board's executive sessions and then call the roll.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to announce that the Board of Education met in executive session on February 7th, 21st, and this afternoon to discuss privileged and quasi-judicial matters, including deliberating about the new charter applications under consideration by the board tonight. During today's executive session, the board additionally discussed personnel and employment matters, labor relations issues, quasi-judicial proceedings, and privileged and confidential matters. Now for the roll call. Ms. Danzy,
Present.
Ms. Ahia Hinton,
Present.
Ms. Fix Lopez,
Present.
Mr. Huang,
Present.
Dr. McColgan,
Present.
Dr. McGinley,
Present.
Dr. McIver,
Present.
Vice President Walker,
Present.
President Wilkerson,
Present.
Dr. Height, and Mr. Pratico.
Present.
Thank you.
I'd like to acknowledge at this point Councilwoman Blondell's Reynolds Brown, who is here with us today, and I invite you to make a few remarks. Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown is one of the long time supporters of public education in Philadelphia, and I think at some point you were a classroom teacher. And is ending her service on City Council. So we, welcome and thank you for all the support you've given public education over the years.
So as a former third grade classroom teacher, that would be a C+ response back. Greetings. That's a little better. But yes, whenever I review the agenda of the Philadelphia Board of Education, I look to see where I can offer remarks and have a say with regards to an item on your agenda. So I want to also personally salute Michelle Frank and the students at Franklin Learning Center. When you hear those young people, does it not give you hope? It really, really does. Those are talented young people, and that is actually the topic I want to speak on briefly this evening. So you need to know, first of all, that I come to you as a product of arts in Philadelphia Public Schools, having been introduced to the violin in 3rd grade, the piano in 5th grade, and percussions in the 8th grade at McMichael School. Hi, Linda. My life changed forever when I went to Girls High and was introduced to dance and the Olympic Florex. There are 3 colors, 10 digits, 7 notes, and I would add 5 dance positions. It's what we do with them that's important. To Dr. Height, members of the Board of Education, the many parents and educators who are here, and just folk who care about our children, I'm here today to talk about arts education because it indeed prepares children for the future. It has been proven to help students increase cognitive development, inspire motivation and discipline, as well as it certainly develops confidence, I'm a testimony, and inventiveness. Children involved in the arts do not generally wield guns or have times to join gangs. They don't hang on street corners because they have somewhere better to go. No matter the course our students take, we know that arts matter. Students who have arts-rich experiences in school do better across the board academically. That's been proven. Science tells us that. They also become more active and engaged as citizens. Studies tell us that they vote, they volunteer, and they generally participate at higher rates than their peers. So we who care about arts education also know that leaders that do not support art funding in our schools are entitled to their own opinion, but they are not entitled to their own facts. Arts education matters. Today, this board is scheduled to vote on the Joan Myers Brown Academy by String Theory Schools. I would be remiss if I didn't use this opportunity to share my personal thoughts on this incredible, extraordinary, exceptional woman for whom this academy is named, my mentor, my former dance teacher, my friend. Joan Myers Brown has been an important pioneering force in the city of Philadelphia for decades, 60 years, 50 years as the founder, artistic director, and executive director of the Philadelphia Dance Company, affectionately known as Philadanco. Joan has touched thousands of lives through the world of dance, and as a fortunate former professional dancer with the Philadelphia Dance Company, I know firsthand how arts and culture can and do have a profound impact on one's career trajectory, wherever it may take you in life. I learned valuable lessons that I actually was able to take to City Hall. When you create art as a team, you quickly learn that it is not a me thing, it's a we thing. And as a member of the company, 40 years ago when I was 30 pounds thinner, I loved the physicality of dance, the appreciation of music, while I learned how to dress properly, pay attention, and make excellence my standard. In 1988, Joan founded the International Conference of Black Dance Companies, and in 2012, she was designated as one of the 10 best Philadelphians by Philadelphia Magazine. And her proudest moment was when she received the National Medal of Arts, a distinct honor that was given to her by our president, President Barack Obama. She's received dozens of accolades over the years and has been saluted by the Philadelphia Tribune, the African American Museum, and the Distinguished Daughters of Pennsylvania. Her story embodies the Philadelphia story. Raised in West Philadelphia, she worked tirelessly as a black ballerina, and when she was not hired by the ballerina companies at that time, she decided to start her own dance company 60 years ago. She continues to inspire and mold the lives of African American dancers, as well as passing the torch to her daughters, Melissa Brown Swift and Danielle Brown. She's a woman who believes in not only shattering the social barriers of dance, but making a difference in communities throughout our city, the state, and the world. Dancers leave Philadelphia and they go to Ailey, they go to Vegas, they travel Broadway, they teach, and they end up in offices like City Hall. My sincere hope that as you consider the application for the String Theory Charter School to be named after Philadelphia's own Joan Myers Brown, you'll look seriously on that application. In closing, former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton said it best: exposure to the world of arts can literally mean the difference between lives of accomplishment and lives of hopelessness and failure. It is my hope that you will look with strong consideration to naming the String Theory School after Joan Myers Brown, an institution who has changed and transformed thousands of lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any other elected officials? Seeing none. Board members, before we proceed, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 17th action meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All of those in favor of approving the minutes say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. The action meeting minutes are approved. Dr. Height, would you please give your remarks at this point?
Thank you, President Wilkerson, and good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin my remarks, I would first like to again recognize, and I know they are gone already, the impressive student musicians from Franklin Learning Center. They are called the Bob Tones, and their director, Michelle Frank. And I want to once again recognize tremendous talents of not just those young people, but all of the young people that we're educating across the city. I would also like to echo President Wilkerson's comments and acknowledge all of the teachers who have recently earned their National Board of Professional Teaching Standard certification, or who have renewed their certification. We were proud to recognize these teachers at a ceremony earlier today, and we're happy to acknowledge and recognize them in front of all of you during the public meeting. One of our anchor goals as the school district is to have great teachers, principals, and employees serving their students, and having teachers with National Board certification certainly reflects that effort. So congratulations to all of these teachers, and thank you again for all the work that you do for our students and our school communities. The district has also been celebrating Black History Month throughout the month of February. Some of you may have even walked by our Black History Month art exhibit here on the second floor just outside of the Broad Street elevators. If you haven't had the opportunity to take a look, please make sure you take a look at this exhibit. I encourage you to do so before leaving this evening. Our students, teachers, and principals have also been marking the month in some really creative ways. Many of our teachers and students have been decorating their classroom doors to help celebrate famous African Americans. One of my favorites is the door to Mrs. Batado's 8th grade classroom at the Ludlow School, depicting Diana Ross. Our schools have also hosted Black History Month events like movie nights, live-in museums, concerts, and family nights. I even had the opportunity to help teach a Black History Month lesson at Constitution's Constitution High School's second annual Black History Month Expo at the National Constitution Center. Here at the district, we recognize that one of our greatest strengths is our diversity, and that Black history is something that we should be teaching throughout the entire year, not just during February. For years, African American Studies has been a required course for graduation, and we are finding ways to explore related issues throughout the entire school year. We all benefit when we broaden our understanding of the African American experience here in Philadelphia and in America. And we look forward to further educating our students about individuals in and around this community who have made a difference. We're also counting down the days until National Read Across America Day, which will be celebrated in schools tomorrow, Friday, March 1st. I'm excited to be visiting the Laura Waring Elementary School to read one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books, Oh, the Places You'll Go, to a second grade class. I would encourage everyone here today to take some time to see how you can get involved in Read Across America Day activities in your neighborhood school. I would also like to highlight the outstanding work of our early childhood education team and the work that they have been doing around early literacy. As most of you know by now, one of our anchor goals is for 100% of 8-year-olds to read on or above grade level. I'm happy to report that since the 2015-2016 school year, the number of third graders scoring proficient or advanced on the literacy portion of the PSSAs has jumped almost 7 percentage points. This is not only a testament to the hard work of our students, but to the tremendous work that our teachers are doing in front of the children and all of our educational professionals in school as well. Many of our teachers have undergone hours of training on how to teach early literacy and support students who may be struggling. They have embraced new technology placed in classrooms to help students learn to read, and have carefully organized their level libraries and other classroom resources so that students are in the best positions to succeed. We know that access to quality early literacy experiences is tied to higher graduation rates, better social and emotional development, and improved academic outcomes. And while much work has been done, we have much more to do to make sure our students are where they should be. But it's important to celebrate these milestones and successes whenever we can. So I hope everyone has a fantastic National Read Across America Day. And lastly, Madam President, well, not lastly, I have 2 more items. Next to lastly, Madam President, I would like to remind everyone that Tuesday, March 5th, is Kindergarten Open House Day. This is a day for parents of rising kindergartners to visit their neighborhood schools, learn more about what they and their students can expect from kindergarten, and even register for school. Parents should contact their neighborhood schools for more information about Kindergarten Open House Day. Children should be 5 years old by September 1st to be enrolled in kindergarten. We have even launched a Thrive at 5 campaign encouraging families to register their children for kindergarten. So you may have seen some of the advertisements around the city. We know that early childhood education leads to higher high school graduation and college matriculation rates, improve achievement in reading and math, enhance language development, and greater earning potential. This is why we encourage all families to ensure their children have the tools they need to succeed by registering them for kindergarten. Families can find out more information on the district's website at philasd.org/early childhood. Madam President, now my last comment is about we have several speakers today, and many of them are student speakers who are speaking on the senior year only program. And while the young people are welcome to speak, I just want to make sure that it's crystal clear that our intentions are to continue that dual enrollment program through next year and beyond, because that's a very important experience for most of our young people. So the young people are still welcome to speak, but I just wanted to make sure there was clarity that there are no plans to eliminate the dual enrollment program or the senior year only program for our young people. Now, that concludes my remarks.
Dr. Hyde, I appreciate your clarification on that matter. A lot of times, bad information can travel fast, and so I'm sure it's great for those students and others to know that there is no plan to end that program, and so thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from board members, Mr. Practico, or any other board members? So with that, thank you. We're going to move on to our committee reports. Mr. Practical, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. First, I'd like to make an announcement. Julia and I have been meeting and having discussions with our peers and bringing their feedback to the board. It has been a rewarding experience to be the voice of our peers, but soon we'll be graduates and not students of the district. And so, the search for the next student board representatives is starting tomorrow. The application will remain open through April 23rd. To qualify, students must be entering the 11th or 12th grade in a district-led or charter school in Philadelphia, have a 2.5 or above GPA, be willing to represent their peers at Board of Education meetings, and feel it is imperative to include youth in public education decisions. We encourage all who meet the qualifications to apply, and you can access the application on our website at philasd.org/schoolboard. Also, Julia and I have been visiting more schools and look forward to presenting a written summary of our visits and its findings at the coming meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next committee report will be Finance and Facilities Committee. Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Madam President. Our last committee meeting was held last Thursday afternoon, and I'm going to focus on afternoon because that's a first for our committee. In calendar year 2018, all of our monthly meetings were in the morning, which is during the workday for most of us, and importantly during the school day. We are experimenting with alternating between morning and late afternoon committee meetings, and I can tell you, I can report to you happily that our February committee meeting, which started at 4 p.m., was much more well attended. So thank you for all who came out. We really appreciate that. During that committee meeting, we received 4 reports from district staff and heard from public participants. A brief update I want to give on each of those 4 district reports. First, budget updates. Ori Monson, Chief Financial Officer, provided a brief update on the current end-of-year fiscal year 2019 fund balance projections. As of quarter 2, the fund balance is projected at $153.2 million, which represents a $26.1 million decrease from what was reported at the end of quarter 1. Key drivers for this decrease include the revenue impact of the city's tolling bill and increased payments to charter schools. Additionally, Mr. Monson provided information on the current status of the development of the fiscal year 2020 budget. The board and district staff are working to identify priority investments, which will be presented at our March committee meeting as part of the lump sum statement. The second district report was a review of the assessment appeals program. School districts in Pennsylvania have the ability to appeal property assessments as undervalued. In 2016, the district conducted a request for proposal process to identify a team that would identify properties for appeal and conduct the appeal process. Since then, over 400 properties have been identified for appeal, with 175 of those properties resulting in negotiated settlements. The district received approximately $1.8 million of additional tax revenue in year 1 as a result, and approximately $3.8 million in year 2. The third district report was an enterprise resource planning update. District staff continue planning for the implementation of upgrades to the financial, human resources, payroll, and procurement systems. The new systems will go live on July 1st, 2020. And fourth and finally, we request a monthly facilities renovations and remediations update. And Danielle Floyd, the Chief Operating Officer for the district, provided updates on paint stabilization projects. And specifically, there are 6 active sites in the paint stabilization program. District staff collected feedback from school communities that have completed projects. Feedback was collected through in-person meetings hosted at the schools and a survey. Overall, stakeholders are satisfied with the completed projects. However, they recommended improving communications on the exact scope of the project with all stakeholders addressing quality control issues and access to workspaces during the school day. As for heating season updates, the operations team continues to monitor and support the heating needs at schools. Currently, 95% of boilers are operating with at least 1 boiler operating at each school. Ms. Floyd also provided updates on design and construction projects, environmental remediation projects, and information on the proposed new K-8 school on Ryan Avenue. The district is currently collecting feedback from parents and community stakeholders on the 2 proposed locations for that new school. All of these reports, by the way, are available with materials of our meeting on our website. There are several action items on tonight's agenda that were discussed briefly at our committee meeting. Thank you.
Wong, our next committee report is from Student Achievement, and Dr. McGinley, you're giving that report?
Yes, thank you, President Wilkerson. And due to the late start of their meeting, our meeting started even later, which is hard for people who are 60 and above. Our committee received two major reports from the school district last Thursday and briefly discussed action items, and we also heard from a number of members of the public, some of whom are here tonight. The two reports included information on recruitment and retention, and Lou Ballardine and Terry Rita, leadership from the Office of Talent, presented on the district's employee recruitment and retention strategies. They provided information on the hiring process, highlighted challenges due to teacher shortages, provided data on individuals teaching with emergency permits, and shared employee retention strategies. Office of Charter Schools presented information and a summary of their evaluation reports on each of the 3 new charter school applications, which will be considered by the board on tonight's agenda. Full presentations are available with materials of our meeting on our website, and the presentation from the Office of Talent included additional contextual items that were not included or presented at our meeting. Finally, the committee discussed action items that are on the agenda tonight, and we heard from several public participants. We have a very full agenda moving forward, and in our March meeting, we'll be discussing English language learners and their experience in the school district as a major topic.
Thank you, Dr. McGinley. Any questions for anybody who's given a report thus far? Our next report is from Ms. Fix Lopez on behalf of the Partnership and Community Engagement Committee.
Thank you, President Wilkerson. So first we'll start with the Parent and Community Advisory Council. So thank you to the 123 applicants who applied to serve on the Parent and Community Advisory Council. We're excited by the number of qualified candidates that showed interest in dedicating their time to serve the young people in the city of Philadelphia. Over the past 2 months, we have spent time learning more about a select number of candidates. These candidates represent a diverse set of schools, neighborhoods, and bring a unique set of skills and experiences. The Board of Education will be making an announcement on selected candidates for the 2019-2020 school year next Thursday, March 7th. And on March 21st, we'll hold another community meeting. Our committee will host the next community meeting on the 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Blackwell Community Center in West Philadelphia. Similar to our last meeting, the intent of the meeting is to hear from residents who are parents, family members, or community members on their experiences engaging with their local school. Additionally, we hope to collect ideas on strategies to improve parent and family engagement across all schools. We are working with the Philadelphia Housing Authority to plan logistics of the meeting and promote the meeting to residents in the neighborhood. We will also be targeting our communications to residents in the area by sharing flyers at neighborhood schools and with local partner organizations. If you're interested in attending, we ask that you RSVP through our committee page on the website. It is not required to RSVP. You can still come to the meeting, but we will be offering childcare and food, and it will help us to best plan for the meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Lopez? Our next report is from Policy and from the Policy Committee. Dr. McCulkin.
And I luckily get to present the shortest report this month. So action 1 on the agenda tonight includes policies that were reviewed by our committee in January. There were 10 draft policies that included in the action item for public review. The policies are 111 lesson plans, 123.3 sportsmanship, which is a new policy, 211 student accident insurance, 217 graduation requirements, 304 employment of district staff, 617 administrative activity funds, 709 key entry and usage rates, 804 school day, 805 emergency preparedness, 916 volunteers. And again, there is no action on these draft policies at tonight's meeting. These policies and administrative procedures will be on the agenda for the board meeting consideration in the March action meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. McCulkin? Hearing none. Our next item is hearing from speakers who are speaking on topics related to action items being considered this evening. At this time, we'll hear from our student speakers first, and those who've registered to speak on action items we're considering. We'll hear from speakers on general topics later on our agenda after we've voted on tonight's business. I'd like to note that we've received written testimony to be entered into the record from Ronald Whitaker in support of action item 6 and Kaylee Langford against the approval of action items 4 through 6. Ms. Rock, would you please share our speakers policy and then call up our first 5 speakers?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. On behalf of the Board of Education, thank you for your input on school district matters and issues, including the proposed actions being discussed this evening. To respect every speaker's time, we will be strictly enforcing the 3-minute per speaker time limit. There's an electronic time prompt on the speaker's table. When the yellow light comes on, you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your remarks, and when the red light comes on, you must be completed. Student speakers and those speaking on action items have been prioritized on the agenda. Those speaking on general topics will address the board after we've completed formal business. Up to 4 speakers will address the board on each topic. Written testimony submitted in advance of the start of this meeting will be included as part of the record of tonight's meeting. I'll be calling 5 speakers at a time, and I ask that you come and sit in the first 2 rows so that we can move as efficiently as possible. And I'll begin with our first 5 speakers. Apologies if I mispronounce anybody's names. Ross Barris Gomez Ramirez, Isis Clark, Monterich Sankothia, Kimberly Hampton, and Cassandra Lopez. Please come to the front of the room. Are any of those speakers here? Okay, I'll call the next 5, please. Amir Curry, Molly Narome, Amiri Rivera, Nicholas Butler, and Sam Shippen. Okay, if Amir could please come to the table. Thank you.
Before I begin my remarks, I wanted to have Zoe and Miranda come up and provide their 370 petitions from SLA regarding Policy 805.
Please begin.
Thank you. I am Amir Curry. I am here on behalf of my peers representing the students of Science Leadership Academy at Bieber. I'm a senior at Science Leadership Academy at Bieber, one of the schools which the amendments to Policy 805 would mandate the presence of metal detectors. SLA at Bieber's core values are centered around student autonomy, integrity, and trust. In 2013, we inherited a middle school where metal detectors were a common feature and school police outnumbered school counselors. SLA Bieber is a drastic contrast. We pride ourselves on having 0 metal detectors and reducing the amount of school police officers. Yet, we are only a few blocks away from Overbrook High School, which is inundated with police and include metal detectors at every entrance. We are also a few miles from Lower Merion High School, where metal detectors and police presence in schools is non-existent. Lower Merion School District is about 82% white, and the average income is upward of 6 figures. No emergency preparedness policy similar to that of Policy 805 exists for Lower Merion School District. Understanding this body does not govern the Lower Merion School District, I digress. Now, it is my firm belief that this emergency preparedness policy will not safeguard the health and safety of students and staff. It will instead prioritize school policing and surveillance and inevitably create an environment that will criminalize students. The proposed amendments are not only detrimental to students, but are being pushed with no evidence that adding metal detectors that adding metal detectors will prevent tragedies. Implementing a policy in the name of consistency without evidence is erroneous and prohibits self-governance by individual schools in deciding what safety policies are best suited for their environment. It is my belief that we should ensure schools have access to proper resources. I believe that we should be focused on increasing teachers so we can have access to individualized smaller class sizes, ensuring that we have modern and updated school resources. It is my firm belief that this policy
Thank
is
you.
a divestment
We have your policy, and we'll enter the
it
rest
is a
of your policy
divestment
in the
from
record.
a divestment from students and an investment in the school to prison pipeline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Curry. Would Molly Naram please come up? Is it Molly Naram? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Naram, and I'm a youth leader from VIT Lead and also a junior at Girard Academic Music Program. At the Khmer Youth, I've learned the stories of my elders and those that were exposed to the toxic chemicals that were exposed to the toxic chemicals and bombs that were dropped in Cambodia. Essentially, this became the starting point of how our elders and people were displaced. And now, as a student under the School District of Philadelphia, the theme of toxicity is occurring once again, but this time it's in our schools. I'm very lucky to be part of a very privileged school, building such as GAMP. However, I like to speak on behalf of other schools, such as Furness High School, Central High, and Palumbo, where there have reportedly been infested with toxic chemicals such as lead and asbestos. The lead comes from chip paint, and instead of fully cleaning it, it is being painted over once again. I hear that the school district wants to codify the use of metal detectors and scanning equipment in our schools. At GAMP, our school is made up of students from both middle school and high school, but the only students that have to go through these metal detectors are the high school students. This in itself exposes the redundancy of even having the metal detectors in the first place. School officials put these things in place with the intention to protect us, but it has also inherently created a system of criminalizing black and brown students under the School District of Philadelphia. As a student standing in solidarity with other students here, I demand that the school board members prioritize funding into providing more mental health services for our students. This would include encouraging meditation sessions during class and, of course, arrange for more counselors in our schools. With that, funding should be prioritized towards the cleanup of school buildings so that the health of school staff members and students will not be put at risk every day. As for where the funding may come from, I also ask that it begins with having your support in eliminating the tax abatement, which has accounted for the lack of funding for our schools and the lack of development in the livelihoods of our school experience. Thank you.
Amiri Rivera, please.
So do I push this, or is it already on? Yeah, it's already on. Hello. Oh, good afternoon. My name is Amiri Rivera. I'm the average 11th grader at SLA Beaver, also known as Science Leadership Academy at Beaver. One of the 3 remaining schools that does not have metal detectors. So I'm aware this council does not completely control this, but you do have a say in this decision. Now, moving on. The fear of metal detectors generate has led to new bills like this one, with the intention to prevent violence that isn't here. It's not in our school. But this tends to change communities where we have this criminalization and this distrust at a school that is mostly black and brown students, even though we do have a mix of different diverse races. Now, anytime this topic is actually brought up at my school, everyone has an opinion about how it won't work and about how it will fail and it will actually make day-to-day life harder. We actually craft and build things within our schools, so resources such as wood, metal, vinyl, they go through the doors all the time. So trying to stop or regulate that would actually lead to a lot of distrust, and it would actually damage parts of our community. Now, as of right now, we're basically showing that we actually care about this topic and it actually matters to us by showing up here. And we will continue to show that we care throughout the entire month. Even after this vote goes down, there's still going to be voices letting you know that we don't want this. And that we will continue until we actually believe that this will turn out well. Now, these metal detectors, they impose the idea that we should fear our schools, that we should fear our peers, and even our sacred communities. This kind of security, it doesn't keep us safe. It damages the most important part of any community: trust. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort. Have a wonderful day.
Nicholas Butler.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Butler. I am a senior at Philadelphia Performing Arts, a string theory charter school. I'm here to support the Joan Myers Brown application. I came to Philadelphia Performing Arts as a freshman, though many of my classmates had been there since kindergarten, so I had no idea what to think. Although I had no previous training in the arts, and I was once too afraid to be the guy that everybody was looking at, now I cannot imagine myself being off that stage for more than a week. In the last 4 years, I was given the opportunity and a pathway to find my passion. Now, whether your passion is science or engineering or the performing arts, or whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or a designer, our school gives you all the instruments and all the tools necessary for you to reach success. Our students have opened up a coffee shop with all the same responsibilities that go with it. That means budgeting. Students started their own lifestyles company after receiving a $50,000 grant from Comcast that the students wrote. School was given an Emmy because we got a documentary that was produced about our entrepreneurship program. Most recently, we've received SBR awards for our continued academic growth. With 100% graduation and college acceptance rates, Philadelphia Performing Arts has proven itself to be one of the greatest schools in the city of Philadelphia. But the most important thing I've found is my family. They've made me feel secured, safe, and loved. Please approve this application for the Joan Myers Brown Academy so many other kids can have the same opportunity that I have. May I introduce you to my family?
The Addams family. You're an Addams, that's right. When you're an Addams, special duty. Out with the Addams. When you're an Addams, with one bite, you're obligated to the plan. It's family first and family last, and family by and by. When you're an Addams, the segregations don't apply.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sam Shippen, please come to the front, and I'm going to at the same time call the next 5 speakers, and please come to the first 2 rows. Jason Karasonite, Carol Kalimnik, Linda Rubin, Diane Payne, and Deborah Grill. And is Sam Shippen here? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Sam. Hi, my name is Sam Shippen. I'm a junior at SLA Bieber Academy, Science Leadership Academy. And I'm here about the policy to put metal detectors in the 3 schools that don't have them. And I just want to say that we don't need the metal detectors. I've talked to everyone that I could about this, and I wanted to make sure that when I came up here, I wasn't just a fringe opinion presenting to you guys. I genuinely think that these would do far more harm than they would good, because the level of distrust that they create, it just doesn't mesh with our community as a school, I think. We're a really small school, and our core values are responsibility and leadership. And I think that we've shown that if there was something that was going to happen where we would need a metal detector, it would have happened already. But more than anything, I think that the metal detectors are just a Band-Aid on a bigger problem, because if children are bringing metal weapons to school, then why do they not feel safe? You're putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem you're putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. These kids don't feel safe in their going home in their schools. But that's not, I don't feel that when I go to school. I feel safe. And part of that is the fact that there aren't any police officers, there's like very few police officers, and there's no metal detectors. They trust us, and that trust isn't misguided. And it was said before earlier today that that students who were in the arts were less likely to wield weapons, and I think that my school is proof of that, because we're all artists in our own rights, and it's a very creatively minded school that just, it doesn't make sense for us to be policed like this. It doesn't make sense. There's other things that money could go to. I really believe that. I think that if we focus the money on making our neighborhood safer, on making sure kids felt safe at school, on feeling more supported, that we wouldn't need metal detectors. We don't need them. That's just the truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Carosinite? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Jason Corsiniti, co-founder of String Theory Schools. It's challenging for me to see an evaluation of us and our charter school application that is deeply flawed and biased. We've been educating students in the city for nearly 20 years and been recognized as not only one of the most innovative and successful schools in the city, but also the country. I understand that there still may be some questions, but there is no part of our application that can't be worked through if you choose to approve us tonight. We absolutely have the resources and experience to provide a comprehensive learning experience to students. We typically have around 5,000 applicants in our annual lottery and have more than demonstrated sustainable support for the charter school by the community under charter school law. West Philly is one of the worst in the city from an academic perspective as well as from a facility standpoint. We have the capability to open a beautiful modern school for these kids, and saying no to this opportunity isn't saying no to us, it's saying no to kids who haven't had a program like this in their neighborhood, and it's saying no to Joan, who is willing to offer a Philadanko experience to these kids that's free to them. More money flows through West Philly via University City than just about anywhere else in the city, and practically none of it reaches these kids. The report on our application is not an accurate reflection of our proposal. And if you listen to the leaders who are the mainstays in this community, they know what we have to offer because we are doing it already. The theoretical criticism contained in the report can be proven false by the fact that we have a track record of doing this successfully, a fully arts, fully STEM, non-criteria-based education that is on par with some of the city's best magnet schools. And this city will have the same budget model and same staffing model. People don't understand how we do this because they've never done it before. I'll also add that after publishing this report, the district gave both of our schools SPR awards. Performing Arts was recognized as one of the top 10 high schools in the city and was top 3 out of non-criteria-based high schools. Our K-8 school was ranked higher than Masterman's Middle School, and our Renaissance School was recently honored as achieving 2 tiers of growth on our annual SPR. West Philly needs better options. It deserves our program and model, and I know we can do this successfully. Thank you so much for your consideration tonight.
Carol Klimnick.
My dilemma is a 3-minute time limit and many issues. First and foremost, you are government officials in charge of a $3 billion budget. As the persons overseeing the spending, approving any of these charters is an abdication of your responsibility for all of our students. The charter school office, apps, and the notebook have described the flaws and concerns in all 3 applications. You need to take a stand and deny every one. You need to resist the political pressure raining down on your heads and put the needs of all of our students front and center. They need to be educated in healthy buildings and have adequate staff, including school librarians. You risk all of this by putting millions into the wallets of these charter management companies. Next, examine the System of Great Schools program. Their Band-Aid approach to supporting struggling schools does not address long-term funding needs. We have attended SGS meetings for the past 3 years and have heard parents, teachers, students, and community members clearly state what their school needs: stable staffing, experienced climate personnel, academic supports, including reading specialists, not vendors selling professional development and coaching. Only one board member attended one SGS meeting last fall. This extra funding is temporary. Initially, each school was promised up to $1 million. Next year, there will be 20 schools. Where is that money coming from? I asked at the Student Achievement and Support Committee and several SGS focus meetings. I have been either ignored or told by district staff that they don't know. If the district truly wanted to hear from a school community, then it should be a year-long process of holding meetings, doing home visits, and providing space for the entire school community to develop its own plan after assessing their strengths and weaknesses. Hiring Temple to hold meetings compressed into 1 month has resulted in extremely limited participation with skewed data. Since this administration loves data collection, how did they ensure that all sectors were included? None of that was evident in any SGS report. Next issue. The SRC started answering questions raised at meetings by printing answers and passing them out at their next meeting. The board needs to develop a way of answering our questions. I know that you take your responsibility as board members seriously. These suggestions are made to support your stated commitment to equity, transparency, and accountability. Now it's up to you to do the right thing. Deny these charters, insist that the district engage with school communities in a thoughtful process, and answer our questions. Thank you.
Linda Rubin.
Good evening. I'm speaking tonight to urge this board to vote no on agenda items 4, 5, and 6 regarding the new applications for 3 more charter schools. First, we can't afford them. Current public school students are paying for them by having fewer essential resources like safe, healthy buildings, and for that matter, vibrant music and arts programs, as well as libraries in their own schools. A vote to approve new charters is a vote to close neighborhood public schools. Second, your own charter school office has detailed, and I mean specifically, many problems with each of these charter applications, including, but not limited to, lack of funding for staff of even key parts of their curriculum, the overlapping and interchangeable duties and roles of charter board members, real estate operators, etc., in essence, placing the financial interests of those involved above the education priorities of the students they enroll. Lack of willingness of these charter operators to agree to school district oversight, including refusing to sign on to new charter agreements with the conditions you set. Schools that are in watch and intervene categories are not achieving at the levels of comparable public schools. The schools these charter companies tout as replicable do not reflect the demographics of district schools. The demographics of one school in particular, String Theory's Performing Arts School, does not reflect the demographics of district schools that String Theory claims they can improve. Third, well-funded private investor PR companies like PSP and Excellent Schools PA are marketing charter schools to the public as if they were introducing new improved soap product. They have a plan. Part one, get as many new charters authorized to increase their footprint now with enrollment and new locations to be expanded later. They have convinced you that you are saving money even by authorizing schools you have problems with because they will drag out legal appeals which the district cannot afford. You've said as much. Part two, declare themselves MCSOs, multi-charter school organizations, for their ever-growing number of existing stable of schools. Part three, eventually secede from the district, taking our taxpayer Philadelphia student funding with them. They are, after all, business people who owe their fidelity to their financial investors and well-paid executive salaries. So even if you or any of you are no longer on the board when the school district is decimated, I'm telling you, you will bear the responsibility for letting them play you now. Pay attention to history. In the 80s and 90s, corporate raiders were taking down existing companies and often selling them off in pieces for their own financial gain. If functioning companies and economies were destroyed and long-term employees left without jobs, oh well. It's all about the Benjamins.
Diane Payne. Diane Payne, please come to the front. Thank you.
Good evening. 3 new charter applications on top of 20 years of failed performance expectations, including the failed performance of the 3 applicants. Enrichment of those savvy enough to get in on the money-making side, including lucrative CEO and administrative salaries, management company deals, and more, but not money for charter school teachers. 20 years worth of taxation without representation, more and more public outcry and investigative reports about the failure and abuse of this system. Investigative reports in the notebook have recently highlighted for the public alarming questions and deficiencies on 2 of the applicants. You are not an elected school board, so we find ourselves in the very same position we did this time last year. Helpless to have a real public say because we cannot vote you out if you continue to give our tax money away. It is interesting that Philadelphia, the state's biggest and poorest school district with the highest population of people of color, are the only ones denied this democratic right in the whole state. And coincidentally, the only ones with the largest proportion of tax giveaways in the form of expanding charter school seats. Please vote no on all 3 applications. I also want to bring up the contentious topic of teacher retention. Last week at the student achievement meeting, the district's talent office presentation was full of lingo, onboarding, pipeline, and talent partners, to name a few, yet completely devoid of the lived reality of teachers in our schools. This is a topic that many current and retired educators have brought before you, the disconnect between 440's plans and words and the real world of district teachers. Teacher Andrew Schultz came before you months ago at the Student Achievement Committee meeting and spelled it out in a heart-wrenching testimony. Still, the district's recruitment and retention presentation exemplified 440's detachment from reality. The talent office presentation was noteworthy in the number of things it didn't address. But my 3 minutes only allows me time to mention one: the Danielson framework and its oppressive, soul-crushing use against teachers. The hoops, demands, and absurdity built into this evaluation system and wielded by way too many heartless administrators did not appear in the district's PowerPoint. My question for you today: what steps will 440 administrators take to genuinely understand the concerns and problems of teachers in a way that safeguards them from retribution? Your teachers work hard every single day, struggling against all odds. Stop using them as punching bags as a significant step toward teacher retention. Thank you.
Deborah Grill, could you please come to the front? Deborah Grill, please come to the front, and I'm going to call the next 5 speakers and ask that you head up, please. Excuse me, Lisa Haver, Joan Myers-Brown, Cecilia Thompson, Ronald Whitaker, and Priscilla Jeters-Isles. Thank you. You can start.
Oh, okay. Thank you. First and foremost, you cannot afford to approve any more charters. Charter costs are the fastest growing line item in the district budget. You must vote no on all 3 applications. Including stranded costs, these 3 new charters alone will cost the district an additional $161 million over the next 5 years. How many district students are you going to continue to deprive of resources, including classes in the arts? To allow 3 more charter management companies to increase in profit from their real estate holdings, because that is what seems to be the driving reason behind these applications. It especially struck me as I looked at String Theory's application for the Joan Myers-Brown Academy, attended the hearings, and read the CSO evaluations. It's clear that String Theory did not take the application seriously, or it would have been more thorough. It seemed like String Theory thought it could rely on its political connections, the district's fear of appeals, and the stellar reputation of Joan Myers-Brown. Education seemed to be just an afterthought. Wouldn't a school named after a distinguished dancer and purportedly to focus on the performing arts include a curricula for the performing arts and at least 1 dance teacher position in the budget? String Theories didn't. Would an organization whose mission is to educate children first and foremost include a complete curriculum for each subject? String Theories' application didn't. Wouldn't an organization that purports to offer an astounding education spend more to educate students than to pay down its real estate debt? String Theory spends 1/3 of its operating budget on debt and building costs for its existing school and had to cut course offerings and student transportation due to the debt. String Theory owes its real estate acquisition corporation, the DeMedici II Corporation, a total of $130 million, a debt that will not be paid off until 2043. String Theory intends to charge the Joan Myers-Brown Academy a higher management fee than its existing schools while providing fewer services. I suspect that it needs this new school to help it pay off the debt on its existing school. String Theory states that it will lease the proposed facility with intent to buy. Will it then have to open another charter school to pay off the debt incurred by that purchase? When will this end? I don't have enough time to go into the political connections of String Theory's founding coalition or the conflict of interest concerns that the proposed board members who are also on the board of String Theory's existing school, as well as on the board of the DeMedici II Corporation, or any of the many other concerns I have about this application. I only have time to urge you to put the needs of the students in the district's existing public schools before the monetary needs of these charter corporations. Thank you.
Lisa Haver.
Oh. This is how much String Theory will cost over 5 years.
Good afternoon,
I'm just
everyone.
going to, so Ms. Haver, you're, okay, so Joan Myers-Brown.
I'm next.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My reason for being here today is not to push forward my name on a school. I do not care about that. If you notice, everything I have ever found that does not have my name on it, the Philadelphia Dance Company, the Philadelphia School of Dance Arts, International Association of Blacks in Dance, International Conference of Black Dance Companies, and the Coalition of African American and Latino Organization. I am not pushing my name or myself. I am, as I told City Council earlier today, as they chose to honor me, I am more interested in my experiences that the arts aligned with education produces whole citizens. I have gotten every honor possible from the Philadelphia Award Kennedy Center, every mayor of Philadelphia, even the National Medal of Arts from President Obama. I feel that I have a legacy. My intent is to influence the next generation of youth with a path that includes exceptional arts training and opportunities for young artistic people to make choices about their lives and their careers. If my name is on it, I want to have a say-so not own it. The track record of string theory schools is remarkable. The training I want to enhance with my knowledge in the area of dance and the arts in general will be possible at the string theory schools. Year after year, I see talented young people lost in our current school systems, and also because of the lack of affordability by parents to provide for their children who might be the next great talent because the arts are out of our schools, and relationships between the arts with math, science, electronics, and other life skills are not available to them. Do not eliminate this opportunity for them. I am a living example, as some of my students, Lee Daniels, who was striving with finding himself in a world devoid of the arts, disruptive and destructive, Leslie Odoms, Blondo Reynolds Brown, and nameless others who had the arts give them direction and purpose. Every day I meet parents or former students tell me how my work helped them. I have taught thousands in my 60 years of my schools and thousands in my 50 years of Philadelphia. I have trained them, and I have hired and taken them on their first plane ride and out of their block in Philly to places they only read about. I'm asking you to allow another place in our city that can offer this opportunity to exist for hundreds of students in the future. I thank you for this consideration.
Lisa Haver, please.
Thank you. And I'd like to, take a moment to recognize the contribution that Ms. Brown has made to the Philadelphia arts community. I remember last year hearing a WHYY story about Leslie Odom, talked about starting at Freedom Theater and then moving on to Phil Danko and celebrated the kind of training that he received there. And so whatever action we take on the item tonight, want to recognize the contribution you've made to the arts. And I appreciate the fact that the entire community is beginning to value the arts as being mission critical to educating young people. And I think you certainly have demonstrated through your entire career the significance of art, and we appreciate your contribution.
Lisa's expecting a standing ovation, but you can go ahead.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one.
Pre-ovation.
Thank you.
I did see a lot of very talented public school students here tonight, as we do every month. Excuse me. The board will make a choice tonight on whether it wants to continue the destructive and non-democratic privatization that the SRC practiced when it votes on the 3 new charters that the district does not need and cannot afford. The total cost of these 3 schools over 5 years, those costs were not posted in the action items as all other vendor contracts are, would be $119 million, not including stranded cost. All of the evidence, including from the district's charter school office reports, shows clearly the money trail from the alleged nonprofit charters directly to their affiliated businesses. So the board should vote to approve. If it wants to continue to be complicit in a corrupt system in which the money cannot be followed past the charter school, further enrich the executives at Santilli and Thompson and Sand & Seidel and Omnivest and American Paradigm, to send a message to Harrisburg that the board will comply with an unfair charter law that makes it impossible to hold charters accountable, should approve if you want to continue a system in which charters don't have to account for special ed funding or the astronomical CEO salaries and compensation, approve if you want to give more business to companies whose current charters are underperforming, some of whose SPRs are in the single digits, and if you want to perpetuate a system in which teachers and staff have no workplace protections and no job security. The charter law was written to protect investors, not students. That law makes it almost impossible to close failing schools, failing charter schools. The way to prevent that is not to approve any charter whose application is clearly a prediction of failure. These applications are about real estate deals. American Paradigm wants to buy a 13-acre property next to a Superfund site. String theory seems to be building a pyramid in which the new charter pays off the debt of the other ones. People for People would buy 2 properties for 500 students, one owned by People for People Incorporated and the other owned by the church, whose pastor is also CEO of People for People Incorporated. The board cannot justify approving by saying it wants to avoid legal fees and a possible appeal. The cost of these charters would be $161 million over 5 years. That's more than any legal fees. I'm going to jump ahead and say, if you are going to approve any of these charters, please give a reason why. I mean, the Charter School Office report, the notebook reports, our apps reports really clearly shows all the reasons why not. So if you're going to approve one, at least one board member should say, here are the reasons why we're approving that school. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cecilia Thompson, followed by Ronald Whitaker and Priscilla Jeter Isles and Martha Ritter.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cecilia Thompson. I'm speaking about the proposed calendar. When it comes down to it, it's about the haves and the have-nots. The haves would like everyone to think that that 2-week time for the Christmas break is about children and so forth and so on. When this topic has come up before, it's really about attendance. If they can convince the board to have that proposed date, then attendance is not affected for their children. If you want to take off, children have 8 days before truancy kicks in. So if somebody wants to go away, let them go away. If somebody wants to take time off, if they're district staff, let them take off. But let's not hijack those of us who can't afford to take that time off, because a few can't afford to take that time off. So my suggestion is, I heard on the phone as I was driving down here, there's going to be a district parent engagement meeting, I believe in March. Postpone this until maybe the April or May meeting and hear from those families, from that community. Additionally, schedule some things for the immigrant community. I don't think anybody has asked them if they can afford to take off, if they can afford to bring their children to work. I think I said all I can say about this. I've talked about this 3 or 4 times. And it's just not fair that a small group of people is making such a monumental change. I'm just upset about it because I just can't imagine that when this hits 2 years from now, people are going to be like, well, how did this happen? And I know when you're struggling to make $1 out of 15 cents, you can't come to every meeting and say what you have to say about certain things. But I just hoping that we can come to some type of compromise and maybe just open schools Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And I think that Thursday is the 24th, because most places will either be leaving early or shutting down for that day. That's all I have to say about it. I thank you for the opportunity to be heard, and with the 30 seconds I have left, I just thought it was befitting that the last day of February, Black History Month, we had the distinguished Miss Joan Myers Brown, who is a living legend in Black history. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ronald Whitaker. Is Mr. Whitaker here, followed by Priscilla Jeter Isles? Okay, thank you. Is Ms. Isles here? Jeter Isles?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Priscilla Jeter Isles. I'm here to support high quality education, the Tacony Academy Charter School at St. Vincent's. I have been an educator for over 30 years, both in pre-K through 12 as well as higher ed. I believe that I am committed to education. I have seen the same level of dedication in the American Paradigm Charter Schools in our city. I'm here to support that. This school aims to bring transformative change to our students who are traditionally performing at or below level. This commitment is real, it's steadfast, it's unmovable. At a time when educators are leaving our profession, they are supporting educators at high levels. And I feel that students can learn when we have systems that support children, when we differentiate instruction in real ways, in authentic ways that work well for not just students, but families and communities. Because I believe in a holistic education, not just the child, but the community and the parents. And that has been my work for years. I help families, and I believe because of the way they are situated in the community, this will be a support to families as well. As a committed member of this educational organization, I'm asking for your support in granting this school's charter. So I wanted to be brief. I thank you for this opportunity, and good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martha Ritter, followed by Susan DeJarnett and Caitlin McCann.
Hello, I'm Dr. Martha Ritter, and I'm speaking on behalf of Tacony Academy Charter at St. Vincent's. I want to say first, I'm an educator, I'm a teacher. I've been an elementary school teacher for 12 years, in higher education for more than 18 years. I'm a teacher first, and as a teacher, my goal is for all children to grow with a sense of self-worth, confidence, who care for others and care for the world around them. As a teacher-educator, my goals are the same. And I do that through focusing on the skills and dispositions that help new teachers support all children's learning, and also to be culturally competent and understand struggles for equity. And as a board member of the proposed charter, my goals remain constant: to serve children and young people, their families, and their communities. I'll make decisions as a board member based on supporting quality education, where students can develop critical and creative thinking, confident in their ability to act in the world, to participate as active citizens and caring individuals. I support the charter application because of what I've seen at the American Paradigm Schools. I think their commitment is real. My decisions will be made in an informed way that support the children, families, and their communities. Thank you.
Ready? Thanks. I'm here tonight to ask you to vote no on all three of the applications for new charter schools. You should vote no based on the lack of merit of each application, the negative evaluations of the charter school office, and the very real and extensive costs these new charters will impose on the existing district and charter schools if granted. New charter schools are supposed to provide innovation and be models for other schools. None of these proposed schools meet those criteria as explained in the CSO evaluations. In addition, all three applicants currently run existing charters that are not doing well, and some whose charters have expired and they have not signed new ones. The applications do not acknowledge these deficiencies or explain why these new schools will be different. The board policy for the Tacony application essentially transfers control of the school from the board to American Paradigm, exactly the inverse of what the charter school law requires. The application for Frederick Douglass completely ignores its existing charter school, People for People, to which the founders are clearly closely connected. The string theory application proposes an art school without providing a curriculum for arts and technology that are supposed to be its focus. These are but a few of the serious concerns raised by the CSO evaluations. The applicants' lack of transparency about their own track records is very disturbing and should alone lead you to vote no. Finally, I have shared my legal analysis with you that you can and must consider the financial impact additional charter expansion will have on the district as a whole. If you decide to authorize these schools, you are committing the district to spend many millions of dollars on them over the terms of their initial charters and quite likely years beyond that. As I explained in my written testimony that I gave you in January, stranded costs alone will amount to a minimum of nearly $42 million. This does not include the additional costs of oversight or the effects on special education funding. If you vote yes, what are you planning to cut out of the existing budget to allow for that spending? You have an obligation to the Philadelphia community to tell us what will have to go or what will not be improved as a result of this diversion of funds. Which existing schools will have to defer maintenance? How many more children will continue to suffer from mold and lead paint? How many staff reductions will there be? Charter expansion is very, very expensive. These applications do not justify imposing that cost on the wider community. Thank you.
Our next speakers are Caitlin McCann, Zoe Strauss, Dr. Malachi Muhammad, and Raynell Staley. Please come to the front. Is Caitlin McCann here?
Good evening, Dr. Height and members of the board. I speak on behalf of my staff and the fellow educators of Network 3 when I say that this year has made us feel discredited, mistrusted, disrespected, and downright devalued. I'm here tonight to ask you, as our last line of defense, to help restore the dignity and morale that has been crushed this year. A few months ago, I was present at a meeting facilitated by Dr. Brooks regarding new lesson plan mandates given to a few networks, including Network 3. The new guidelines require hours of time in order to receive a satisfactory rating on a rubric which I've shared. Hours of time we don't have, hours of time that are needed for things beneficial to students, like actually prepping our lessons, not creating a document for administration. However, at the meeting, I felt heard by Dr. Brooks and appreciate the time she and others in the room gave to understanding and resolving this issue. More concerning, however, is in the school board policy meeting notes, there is a clause that follows Policy 111 called the delegation of responsibility. And in it, it states, lesson plans must conform to the guidelines established by the principal and his or her designee. To my knowledge, this clause is not in our current contract. This language is too ambiguous and allows for more busy work and time away from implementing meaningful lessons. Please vote no on amending Policy 111 to include the delegation of responsibility clause. Beyond lesson plans, we've been mandated to complete a benchmark distractor analysis. Completing this report is redundant, as the data requested is already available in a SchoolNet generated report, which I'd be happy to share also. Doing this for one class took an hour to complete, and many teachers have 3 or more classes. We were offered extra prep time. Many of us refused because we don't want to lose more time from our students. We were also offered 2 hours of PD compensation with no training. Reputable teachers across the network have been issued memos and 204s with recommendations of one-day suspensions as retaliation for incorrectly completing this excessive paperwork. This retaliation is teacher bullying. You will lose competent, dedicated teachers if this continues. According to the Philadelphia Education Research Consortium, 15% of teachers had left the school district entirely just last year. We use benchmark data, but not when the test is unreliable and invalid. Passages on the quarter 2 benchmark were a grade level above, and some questions were completely invalid. Furthermore, a 5th grade passage described JFK being shot in the head, and an 8th grade passage mentioned rape. We push for trauma-informed education, but present students with passages detailing this kind of content. This is irresponsible, and our students are feeling the effects. Ultimately, the excessive paperwork and lack of trust is insulting and demeaning. Working at one of the best schools in the city, I feel punished and bullied. This sentiment is felt through all of Network 3. Please listen to our pleas in voting no on amending Policy 111 in March and limit the busy work and hierarchy of bullying in order to build.
Zoe Strauss? Is Zoe Strauss here? Dr. Muhammad?
Good evening, board. My name is Dr. Malachi Muhammad. I'm the Executive Director at Education Opportunities for Families, and I'm in full support of action items 4, 5, and 6, applications for new charter schools. In a school district where 20,000 students are in low-performing schools, it is the responsibility of the school board to allow students access to quality schools. Philadelphia's poor and minority students have fewer quality education options. 70% of poor parents say they have children attending district-run schools, compared with 46% of non-poor students. A 2017 study showed that African American and Latino males are more likely to be rejected from the district special admission schools, magnets, even if they met all of the admission requirements. It is hypocritical to tell a parent that they have an option to where their children go to school and then condemn them for that choice when it doesn't fit the needs of a school district. Parents should be in the driver's seat of their children's education, and the school board's ears should not be hijacked by voices like Lisa Haver, who talk about the opposition instead of opportunity that every child deserves. Thank you.
Is Raynell Staley, please?
Ms. Staley?
Earlier today, the Education Law Center released a report examining equity in the charter sector that we prepared at the request of the Student Achievement and Support Committee. The report focuses on traditional charter schools like those that you are voting on today, brick and mortar charter schools that were authorized by predecessors to this board as new citywide schools pursuant to Section 717A of this charter school law. Based on data from traditional charter schools themselves, as reported by the Charter School Office, and other public sources, we found systemic evidence of the types of civil rights issues we regularly hear about on our helpline. Evidence that historically marginalized students, such as students with disabilities, English learners, and students of color, are not being equitably served by charter schools. The inequities come in many forms, and one of the most significant is the disproportionate enrollment of more advantaged students in charters relative to district schools. Among our key findings are: 1, the population of economically disadvantaged students is 14 percentage points lower in the traditional charter sector than in district schools. 2, the percentage of English learners in district schools is nearly 3 times higher than in charter schools. 31% of traditional charters have no English learners at all. Number 3, few of the special education students in traditional charters are from the low incidence disability categories such as autism and intellectual disability that typically are most expensive to serve. And 4, the vast majority of traditional charter schools serve students that are either 2/3 or more of one racial group, a significantly higher degree of segregation than is found in district schools. Many of these demographic differences are the result of charter practices within the board's authority to oversee. However, as we found in our report, a charter could violate federal and state requirements for English learners, special education, and non-discrimination enrollment, and still be eligible for renewal under the district's existing charter school performance framework. Such a result is not in line with the charter school law and existing precedent. For all its limitations, and we recognize that there are many, the charter school law gives local school boards broad authority to ensure that the requirements for civil rights and student health and safety are being met. It empowers the board to deny charters that fail to demonstrate the ability to meet the educational needs of all students, and to revoke charters in the face of violations of civil rights and other fundamental laws. We therefore urge you to, 1, look beyond academic and financial performance and focus on issues of equity when authorizing and renewing charters. 2, change the performance framework used to evaluate charters so that equity issues are prioritized. And 3, expand the charter school office's capacity to ensure effective oversight and identify unwritten discriminatory practices. And we hope your vote today is worthy of the tremendous public trust that Philadelphians place in you as charter authorizes to act in the best interests of their children. Thank you.
Thank you. It's now time to discuss and vote on this month's action items. Action item 1 is a review of proposed board policies. These policies have been reviewed and recommended for consideration by our board policy committees. These policies are for review and comment only tonight. They will not be adopted at tonight's meeting. Board members and student board members as well, are there any comments or questions regarding policies in action item 1?
Yes, Madam President. Policy 805, which is up for review tonight, has been amended to state the emergency preparedness plan for all district high schools shall mandate the use of walk-through metal detectors and X-ray scanners at all designated points of student and visitor entry. This has been a topic of discussion for many students, and we appreciate our peers coming out to tonight's meeting and last week's student achievement meeting to state their concerns. When Julian and I started visiting schools, we chose ones that would present a variety of what our district has to offer. One of the schools we visited was the Workshop School, which does not have a security checkpoint at the entrance. Their strong sense of community and trust struck us and is something we would like to see in schools all across the city. We believe a large part of that trust is built on the fact that the school staff and students coexist with a sense of equal footing and without suspicion towards students. We can never allow students to feel untrusted or suspect in a place where they feel comforted and supported. The reality is that these checkpoints only deepen a ravine of trust between many students feel towards adults in their school, something which affects their interest and learning in class. We encourage fellow board members to truly evaluate the impact of these security devices that they have on safety, climate, and the environment of our school. And we urge the board to vote no on this policy at the next meeting.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from board members?
I also have a statement about number 805. In 2016, the National Institute of Justice commissioned a study to synthesize expert opinion on the need for metal detectors in schools. Over 80% of panelists from the urban panel and a similarly high proportion of panelists from the suburban rural panel believed that metal detectors encourage students to have negative attitudes toward school and that metal detectors make schools seem too fortified and unwelcoming. However, more alarming data comes from the National Center for Education Statistics, which shows that the number of high schools using metal detectors increases significantly as the Black and Latino student population in schools increase. When we require metal detectors at every entrance of every high school, we are criminalizing students at the outset. We are telling students that we believe they are incapable of engaging in good decision making, and we are reinforcing a model that mimics prison. Years of schooling in hyper-managed environments produce citizens who do not realize the power of their own voice and their power to question injustice. Our focus should be on creating a culture that engages engagement and agency over obedience and control. I implore my fellow board members to reject this policy and use the resources that would go towards increased metal detectors, to increase support for students who have experienced trauma from gun violence in their communities, employ restorative practices in all schools, and increase counseling services for our most troubled schools. Graduating students who believe in their own power to change the world starts with us.
Are there other board comments?
Yes, Madam President. I endorse all that is said. Our students were quite eloquent, and I think that their perception of is to them correct. I do realize that in our city right now, we have issues, maybe not many, but we have issues with some persons coming into our school, or the potential for some coming into our school that may harm our students. We really are caught in a quagmire of how do we protect our students and how do we honor and present to them that we value them. I believe that at this point, we really need to step back, study this issue, and get some data before we can move forward. I think under any circumstances, we need to look at how we apply it. We need to look at, do we have the means to really get to the bottom of why sometimes weapons may have been brought in. But I also know that should any child be harmed, even if it was someone who spoke out against this tonight, there will be a lawsuit brought against the district as a result of that harm. So I think this is an issue we need to think of critically, because my stand is, if you don't put it in some, you don't put it in any. Because the bottom line is, if right now it is in the ones where it's a greater percentage of minorities. So if we're going to not put it in some, then it will be in none. And I'm not so sure that this community feels that their children are going to be that safe if that is in place. Thank you.
Sure. I just want to follow up. Thank you. Just a little bit. And the students have said it better than I will say it. And I don't want to go through what I already said in the committee meeting last week, but I made it quite clear that I don't think metal detectors are what we need. But just along that line of emergency preparedness 805 and 111 on lesson plans, I mean, I think the bigger takeaway that we've continued to hear from the public over months is that, you know, to get trust, you got to give some of it away. And it seems like there's this policing in a variety of areas. I mean, I'm looking at this, and I have to be honest with the lesson plan, I'm confused. And I'd love in the policy committee for us to really look at this even more about this, because my bigger understanding is that there is this freedom in a sense for administration to decide in different schools how they're going to, in a sense, because this does look like policing to me, police lesson plans, and I think it's important that we have a bigger conversation.
Are there any other board member comments?
I agree with Ms. Fix-Lopez on the lesson plan issue. So I think it is something we should revisit.
I want to concur as well. I think that one of the things that is valued as a teacher is autonomy and the ability to make decisions for your students. So I too agree.
Are there any other comments? These matters.
So I have a comment. So let me make a comment on the lesson plan thing, because this is, and I just spoke to Caitlin, who spoke to us, because I wanted to know who was asking for this type of requirement, because this is not the requirement that we have as a district for our teachers. In fact, the language in the policy has been restructured to read exactly like it reads in the contract. And so I appreciate the teachers sharing the information this evening, because we're going to do something to discontinue this, because this is nothing but policing, and this is not how we want our teachers treated.
Thank you.
So can I just want clarification, because this was a policy that was up for review in a previous, we took it down because of the questions that were brought up, and you're saying that now it aligns with what the PST contract says.
Yes, we actually pulled it and rewrote the language to match the language in the contract so that it's identical. So the policy now reads just like the contract language.
These matters will be considered for adoption or rejection at our meeting next month. Oops. Let's see. The board will now vote on action item 2. Ms. Rauch, please. Action item 2 is proposed student expulsion. Ms. Rauch, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Rout, please. Are there any comments, questions? Ms. Rout, please call the roll.
Thank you, Ms. Danzy.
Yes.
Ms. Ahaya Hinton.
Yes.
Ms. Fix Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Huang.
Yes.
Dr. McColgan.
Yes.
Dr. McGinley.
Yes.
Dr. McGyver.
Yes.
Vice President Walker.
Yes.
President Wilkerson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Our next item is action item number 3 for the public and the board. I've noted that there were technical updates made to this item. These updates are reflected in the publicly posted materials. May I have a motion and a second on action item number 3?
So moved.
I'll second.
Are there questions? Discussion? Ms. Rock, please call the roll.
Thank you. On action item 3, Ms. Danzy.
Yes.
Ms. Ahaya Hinton.
Yes.
Ms. Fix Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Huang.
Yes.
Dr. McColgan.
Yes.
Dr. McGinley.
Yes.
Dr. McGyver.
Yes.
Vice President Walker.
Yes.
President Wilkerson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action items 4, 5, and 6 are on this year's new charter applications. Pennsylvania law mandates that districts annually receive, review, and vote on applications for new charter schools. This year, the School District of Philadelphia received 3 applications, and our first votes of the evening will be on each of these applications. Before beginning these votes, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the importance of the review process that occurred for each of these applications and the vote that will happen at tonight's meeting. Pennsylvania charter school law was adopted in 1997, 22 years and 100 charter schools later. We have learned many critical lessons about authorizing strong charter schools in Philadelphia. The first and most important lesson in the context of tonight's vote is that building strong charter schools is not easy, and it's not universally true that every applicant is equipped to create and run a high-quality school. Philadelphia has 12 schools closed their doors since the charter law came into existence, and one more will close at the end of this year. That means that 1 out of every 10 charter schools authorized has not made it. These might sound like strong odds, but it's important to note that our law makes closing charter schools, even bad ones, lengthy and difficult. The reality is that there continue to exist in Philadelphia charter schools that will most likely continue in perpetuity under our current lax charter school law. It's therefore critical that the board conduct a rigorous review process for each application. In doing this, the board has sought to understand whether each applicant has demonstrated thoroughly that it has the vision, plan, and capacity needed to open and operate an excellent charter school. We owe it to the students who will one day sit in these seats to ensure that the seats are of the highest possible quality. I'd like to thank everyone who's participated in the review that has brought us here today. This has been a large and consuming effort for everyone involved. Most particularly, I'd like to thank members of our charter school office who spent countless hours over the last few months establishing and conducting an impressive evaluation process. Roger Kligerman, Viridana Rodriguez, Stephen Coyle, Peng Chow, Christina Grant, the board would like to thank you. Our hearing officer, Allison Peterson, our counsel, Liz Gutman, members of the public who've taken time to testify both in support and opposition to the applicants, and finally our applicants, thank you for bringing these proposals forward. We will now begin our vote. I'd like to ask Christina Grant, interim chief of the Charter School Office, to come forward and introduce each application. Ms. Grant, please begin by providing us with an overview of the process that has led us here tonight, and an overview of action item number 4, application for new charter school, Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string charter school.
Good evening, Christina Grant, Interim Chief of the Charter Schools Office. To start, we'd like to walk the board and members of the public through the timeline of evaluation. Our applications were released on September 17th, 2018. Letters of intent were due to our office on October 15th of 2018. Full applications were due on November 15th of 2018. We have 2 rounds of public hearings, the first occurring on December 17th of 2018, the second round occurring on January 22nd and January 23rd of 2019, and concluding with a board action tonight on February 28th, 2019. The Charter Schools Office received 3 applications, which we will discuss this evening. Frederick Douglass Charter High School, grades at scale serving grades 9 through 12. The Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory charter school, grades at scale would be K through 8. And Tacony Academy Charter School at St. Vincent's, grades at scale serving grades K through 8. We will first discuss the Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory charter school. The applicant for this school is String Theory Schools. The proposed location for this school is 3905 Ford Road, 19131. The model for this school would be design thinking through creative arts and sciences. They have a targeted community which features a catchment area that would serve the communities of Overbrook, West Philadelphia, and Winfield. String Theory Schools serves 2 existing schools, Philadelphia Performing Arts Charter School, which is a K-12, and Philadelphia Charter School for Arts and Sciences is H.R. Edmonds, which is a K-8 school, and it is also one of our Renaissance charter schools. The mission of the Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory charter school, would be to educate each student according to growth and development so that learning and growth are united, to integrate the developing mind and body of the student with academics and the performing arts and sciences, to ensure each student's excellence in core and academic skills, to awaken and preserve the spirit of our students through the visual and digital arts, vocal arts, instrumental music, creative writing, dance, foreign language, innovations in the field of science, all intertwined with technology, and to nourish this spirit and curiosity so that students continue to flourish long after the end of formal learning. At year 1 of this school, starting in school year 1920, they would have a grade span of K through 5 with an initial enrollment of 600 students. At scale, this school would serve grades K through 8 with a full enrollment of 900.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Before I call for a motion, I'd like to remind everyone that this is the end of the review process. These applications have received public hearings, public evaluation reports, and a public discussion at the Student Achievement and Support Committee last Thursday. In addition, the board deliberated sitting as a quasi-judicial matter prior to tonight's consideration. We are here tonight to take action, and with that, may I have a motion and a second to consider action item 4 regarding application for new charter school, Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory charter school.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'm advised that I need a motion to deny the application filed for a new charter school to be known as Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory charter school, and to adopt the adjudication in support of denial. That's the specific motion I need.
Okay. I move to deny the application filed for a new charter school to be known as Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory charter school, and to adopt the adjudication in support of the denial.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions? I do have a few. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McGinley.
I reviewed this application and all the related materials, and I think the application expresses a great vision of the integration of the arts with academics, but unfortunately the vision is not sufficiently supported by the details in the application, and the budget and the curriculum do not accommodate for a deep focus on dance and arts as noted in the CSO report. I also am concerned because the citywide admit school that's operated by string theory does not reflect the diversity or demographics of the city student population. And finally, based on my experiences in special education and working with English learners, I see that the plans for special education service and supports for English language learners are not adequate.
Thank you. I also have a few comments. I share the concern about the lack of curriculum that would breathe life into some of the mission that the school has adopted. In too many areas, the vision for the school is not reflected in the academic materials that have been submitted to support it. I also think there are concerns about the community support for this school. The applicant provided us with 1,830 signatures on a petition where individuals indicated broad support for the approval of the school, but we have no way to know whether these people are people who would choose to send their children to the new school or whether they even have children who would be eligible to attend the school. The applicant also claims that they have approximately 5,000 students on the wait list at Philadelphia Performing Arts, one of the operator's existing schools, and shares this as evidence of interest in their new school, but we're not provided with a copy of this wait list, so we have no way of knowing whether this number is correct and whether these families would want to go to a new school in a different neighborhood. This is particularly important because the new school proposes to draw students from specific zip codes, and we've been provided with no indication of whether families who live in these zip codes actually want to send their children to these schools. Finally, as a proposed school to serve a specific neighborhood, I would expect to see evidence of support from that community. Instead, we received letters from the community organizations surrounding the location of the proposed school, expressing their opposition to the proposed school. These letters express concerns such as the applicant's sparse outreach done to the community, a lack of a traffic study for the school's proximity to a strip club and a massage parlor, and the lack of discussion about admission preferences for local families, to name a few. Are there any other comments from board members?
Madam President, I would just like to say I support the statement of Dr. McGinley and yours. I do believe in the arts. I support exactly what Councilwoman Brown said. The arts are critical to the learning of our kids, but indeed I found that it was lacking in too many ways.
The board will now vote on action item 4. Ms. Rauch, please explain how we'll take this vote.
Yes, thank you. Board members, please listen carefully to avoid any confusion with double negatives in how we're calling the vote. A motion has been made and seconded to deny the application of Joan Myers Brown Academy, a string theory school, and to adopt the adjudication in support of the denial. When I call your names, board members should either vote yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication, or vote no. Ms. Danzy.
Yes, to deny the application and adopt the adjudication.
Ms. Ahaya Hinton.
Yes, to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Ms. Fix Lopez.
Yes, to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Mr. Huang.
My vote is yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Dr. McColgan.
Yes, to deny the application and to adopt the adjudication.
Thank you. Dr. McGinley.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Dr. McIver.
Yes, to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Vice President Walker.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
President Wilkerson.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
But, yes. But, so by a vote of 9-0, obviously a majority of the board, the application is denied, and the board is adopting the adjudication, which will be attached to the action item and posted sometime later this week. Thank you.
Our next item is action item 5, pertaining to the application for new charter school, Frederick Douglass Charter School. Ms. Grant, please tell us about this application.
Thanks. The Frederick Douglass Charter High School, the applicant was put forth by the Frederick Douglass Founding Coalition. The proposed location for the school is 700 North Broad Street, 19130. The model for the school would be a trauma-sensitive early college entrepreneurship model. The targeted community had an inconsistent identification. We believe that it would have been a citywide admit high school should it be approved. The school had no existing schools, so you've heard concerns regarding its affiliation with People for People Charter School. The mission of the school is as follows. The Frederick Douglass Charter High School will strive to build a community of learners who are engaged through challenging academics and the resources of our city, and to prepare them to become active citizens who care about each other and are responsible stewards of our planet. Year one of this school would launch in school year 1920 with an initial grade span of grades 9 through 10 with an initial enrollment of 250 students. In year 5 of this school, 2023-2024, the grade span would be 9 through 12 with a full enrollment of 500 students.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. May I have a motion and a second to consider this? The motion needs to be in the form of a motion to deny the application filed for a new charter school to be known as Frederick Douglass Charter School and to adopt the adjudication in support of the denial. May I have a motion?
I motion to deny the application filed for a new charter school to be known as Frederick Douglass Charter School and to adopt the adjudication in support of the denial.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Do you have something? Are there any questions or comments?
I have comments.
Go ahead.
I don't want to jump in. I went first last time. I'm concerned that the related organization of People for People operates a K-12 charter school with very low achievement, and that this organization does not demonstrate the capacity to expand. I'm further concerned that the need for this school and the interest in this school is not established by the applicant, and that the school's proposed location is in an area with multiple high school options in district-operated schools and charter schools. And finally, I see a serious mismatch between the narrative in the application and the budget.
I believe we have a number of abstentions in this matter. And so some of the board members won't be commenting or voting. So with that, if there are no other comments, Ms. Rauch, would you please?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Again, I will be calling the question the same way. So a motion has been made and seconded to deny the application of Frederick Douglass Charter School and to adopt the adjudication in support of the denial. So when I call your name, you should either vote yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication or vote no. I will indicate when I believe that there is an abstention. Ms. Danzy?
Yes, to adopt the, deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Thank you. Ms. Ahaya Hinton?
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Ms. Fix Lopez?
Yes, to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Thank you. I understand Mr. Huang is abstaining.
Yes, People for People is a past and current client of the firm that I'm an owner of. So I did not participate in any discussions regarding this application and will not be participating in tonight's vote.
Thank you. Dr. McColgan?
I vote yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Thank you. Dr. McGinley?
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Dr. McIver?
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Vice President Walker, I understand you're abstaining.
Yes, I am on the board of directors of People for People, Inc. I have not participated in any, whoops. I guess it helps to have the microphone on. As I was saying, I am a member of the board of directors of People for People, Incorporated. And as a result, I have not participated in any discussion, and I will not be voting tonight on this matter.
And President Wilkerson, I understand you also are abstaining.
Yes, I'm on the board of Project Home that is involved in real estate transaction with Greater Exodus Baptist Church, and the property involved in that joint venture is one of the properties considered for the school, and on that basis, I'll abstain.
Thank you, Madam President. By a vote of 6-0 and with 3 abstentions, the action item passes and the board denies the application of Frederick Douglass Charter School and adopts the adjudication in support of the denial.
The board will now vote on will now consider action item number 5. 6, I'm sorry, Ms. Grant.
We will discuss for you the application we received for Tacony Academy Charter School at St. Vincent's. The applicant for this school is American Paradigm Schools. The proposed location for this school would be 7201 Milner Street, 19136. The model is the model of the Tacony Academy Charter Schools. The targeted communities would serve students from Bustleton, Frankfurt, Lawndale, Ronhurst, Somerton, and Tacony. This applicant has 4 existing schools operating. First Philadelphia Preparatory Charter School, which is a K-12, Tacony Academy Charter School, which is a K-12, Memphis Street Academy Charter School at J.P. Jones, which is a 5-8. It is also one of our Renaissance schools, and Lindley Academy Charter School at Bernie, which is a K-8, and it is also a Renaissance charter school. The mission is as follows. Tacony Academy Charter School at St. Vincent's mission is to enhance, support, and promote creative and critical thinking, as well as the problem-solving skills of school-age learners in the creation of original inventions as amazing solutions to puzzling problems, while also helping them master Pennsylvania and national standards. Year 1 of this proposed school would be the 2019-20 school year, with an initial grade span of K through 3 and an initial enrollment of 400 students. At year 5 of this school, in school year 2023-2024, the school would have a grade span of K through 7 with an enrollment of 800 students. This school does not achieve scale until school year 2024-2025, which is outside of the initial charter term. That grade span would be K through 8 with an enrollment of 900 students.
Thank you. We'll now, may I have a motion and a second to consider action item 6?
So moved.
I think we need a motion.
Oh, sorry. I'll move even further then. I move to deny the application filed for a new charter school to be known as Tacony Academy at St. Vincent's, and to adopt an adjudication in support of the denial.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or discussion from board members? I do have something I'd like. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McGinley.
Oh, no, please go first.
No, after you.
I'd rather just add on.
No, I'll add on.
I have 3 concerns. One is, it's my understanding that the property is not yet secured, and we haven't seen documentation that it is. And my understanding further is that this building has not been used for years and requires extensive renovations, and I'm not sure how that it could open in September. I'm also concerned about the location. It's geographically isolated, it's difficult to access, and it's clearly inaccessible by public transportation. And then finally, as this was mentioned earlier, as described in the application, the authority that American Paradigm Schools would have in relation to the charter school on staffing decisions and other policies may make the charter school not independent as is required to be under charter school law.
Thank you. Mr. Hay-Hinton, did you have? I want to add additional comments to Dr. McGinley's remarks. I have concerns about the budget and its adequacy in light of some of the real estate issues that Dr. McGinley has discussed. The building has been abandoned. And it's not clear how those renovations would be funded, and particularly funded in order to have students enroll by 2019. But for me, the most important issue is really the performance of American Paradigm's existing schools. American Paradigm currently operates 4 schools in Philadelphia, which show us where this operator should currently be, directing its energy and attention. For example, the Tacony Academy Charter School currently operates as a K-12 school. Last year, the high school's literature proficiency on the Keystone exam was 33%. That's 16% lower than the proficiency rate of schools serving similar populations and 15% lower than the proficiency rate of the district. Its Keystone Algebra proficiency rate was 20%, 13% lower than the schools serving similar populations, and 18% lower than the district. And there are other poor performance indicators in other areas as well. This is a school that has the same leadership that's proposing this new charter school. How are we to have faith that this leadership has the capacity to take on a brand new school at this moment? And how are we to believe that it's fair to the students that are currently sitting in the school's underperforming high school to have their leadership attention diverted to creating a new and separate school? Additionally, I have to note that while all 4 of this operator's other schools recently received renewal recommendations, they were renewals that had significant concerns. Last year, Lindley Academy had an ELA proficiency rate of 24% and a math proficiency rate of 6%. And I want to note that I'm calling the school Lindley Academy at the operator's request, even though the operator has failed to sign a charter school for the school. I'm also concerned about the performance of Memphis Street Academy Charter School that was so poor that the school was renewed only with substantial conditions and clear targets and a surrender clause if the school failed to meet them. This is not an applicant that has demonstrated the ability or capacity to open a new school that will serve students well. To me, this is an applicant who needs to direct its attention to its existing schools. Are there any other comments? Ms. Rout, please call the roll. Or please call for the vote.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. Board members, this should be the last time you hear this from me tonight, but please, again, listen carefully to avoid any confusion. A motion has been made and been seconded to deny the application of Tacony Academy at St. Vincent's and to adopt the adjudication in support of denial. When I call your name, you should either vote yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication or vote no. Ms. Danzy.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Ms. Ahia Hinton.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Ms. Fix Lopez.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Mr. Huang.
My vote is yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Dr. McColgan.
An adjudication.
Dr. McGinley.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Dr. McIver.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
Vice President Walker.
Yes to deny the application and adopt an adjudication.
President Wilkerson.
Yes to deny the application and adopt the adjudication.
Thank you. Board members, by a vote of 9-0, the board has denied the application of Tacony Academy at St. Vincent's and has voted to adopt the adjudication in support of the denial.
Thank you. The board will now vote on action items.
I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe there are board members who want to comment more
Yes.
generally about the new applications and the process.
Yes, Madam President. When I became a board member, I came with the hope that I could make a difference, that as a social worker, an educator, a mom, and a grandmother, I was hopeful that I could be a part of something larger than myself that would affect future generations. I did not come to the board with the perspective that all schools were bad. I certainly did not come with the perspective that charters were better. I am sometimes confused by the overall perspective that charters, no matter how low performing, are better, or that traditional public school, may I finish, please? And that public schools, no matter how great, are still bad schools. What I've learned is that there are great charters and low-performing charters mirroring the very same outcomes of traditional public schools. They reflect the disparities and divisions still separating the quality of our schools by race, class, and socioeconomic status. Our challenge is, how do we create a system that provides a quality educational system for all? that reflects high standards and expectations for all our children, no matter where they live and no matter who they are. I take this responsibility very seriously and highlight several key points in our board priorities, and I mean highlight because I didn't take them word for word. One is that all students deserve quality schools. 2 is that schools exist to provide quality educational opportunities. 3, that all children attending public schools, no matter their circumstance, are to have access to great schools. And most importantly, and not least, is that the interest of our students come first. I intend to continue to use these principles to guide all my decisions, especially future decisions, whether I say yes or no. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. McGalkin?
I couldn't agree more with Member Ahia Hinton and the tremendous amount I've learned while being on this board in regard to charter schools, district schools, and particularly in regard to the charter school law. And I really do believe that charter schools could and should be an integral part of achieving a system of great schools in Philadelphia in which every child has excellent education options in their own neighborhood where they can walk to. But in order for this to be accomplished, a successful charter school applicant must have and prepare a perfect or near perfect application that provides a clear vision of their excellent education and how they're going to provide it. A comprehensive application should address the charter school operator has the ability to deliver the quality necessary to achieve the goal of the charter school law, improved education for our children. Our children deserve nothing less. We want to set a high bar, a high standard for quality of education in our schools, and we believe that a great application is necessary to assure great schools.
Does anybody else? Dr. McGinley.
Sorry to take up so much time. I worked for the district in the late 90s at the beginning of the charter school movement in Philadelphia, and it was an era when school districts were asked to be more like businesses, and the promise of charter schools and the move toward privatization of education was seen as a solution or a quick fix for schools, mostly urban school districts. We all know that the promise has not been realized, and when the SRC or we as a board vote in the future to approve new charters, we will do so acting consistently with a Pennsylvania law that is big on promise and weak on accountability. We also see the charter schools here and in other places that contribute to the resegregation of our schools. And charter school enrollments that are not aligned to the demographics of the city are a major concern to me personally. Finally, if we accept the premise that school districts should operate more like businesses, there were valid reasons not to move forward with 2 of the organizations who submitted applications in this cycle, no matter how good their application might have been. We have unsigned contracts with 2 of the 3 applicants. No business would accept new bids or engage in new work with providers who refuse to sign contracts.
Are there any other comments from board members? I'd like to thank everyone who's been involved in this process. As I mentioned before, it was an extraordinary amount of work, and I want to thank the public for its participation in this process. We'll now consider action items 7 through 9 involving employee matters. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion from any board member? Hearing none, Ms. Rout, please call the vote.
Thank you. Ms. Danzy on items 7 through 9.
Yes.
Ms. Ahaya Hinton.
Yes.
Ms. Fix Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Huang.
Yes.
Dr. McColgan.
Yes.
Dr. McGinley.
Yes.
Dr. McIver.
Yes.
Vice President Walker.
Yes.
President Wilkerson.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll now consider items 10 through 12 concerning certain technology matters. Is there a motion to adopt items 10 through 12?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, Ms. Rout?
Thank you. Ms. Danzy.
Yes.
Ms. Ahaya Hinton.
Yes.
Ms. Fix Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Huang.
Yes.
Dr. McColgan.
Yes.
Dr. McGinley.
Yes.
Dr. McIver?
Yes.
Vice President Walker?
Yes.
President Wilkerson?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll now consider items 13 through 24 pertaining to various capital matters and capital-related matters. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Rauch, are there any, any questions? Ms. Rauch?
Ms. Danzy?
Yes.
Ms. Ahia Hinton?
Yes.
Ms. Fix Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Huang?
Yes.
Dr. McColgan?
Yes.
Dr. McGinley?
Yes.
Dr. McIver?
Yes.
Vice President Walker?
Yes.
President Wilkerson?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll now consider items 25 through 38. Is there a motion? May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, discussion on those?
I'm sorry. I do have a few questions on the calendar. I just feel like we have unfinished conversation about it. We were waiting for follow-up on the December 23rd PD day, and then maybe it was 2 meetings ago at this point, we had asked for information on the 2-week closure, the proposed closure at Christmas. We had asked for, would city services be available? In the summertime, they start shortly after school ends, but this would be a different time. And when you're looking at the weekends that are squished in with that, it's about 16 days or so. So we haven't heard follow-up yet on those city services.
Okay.
Hmm?
Okay.
Please.
Good evening, members of the board. First of all, first let's take the next year's calendar. Oh, sorry, Sean Bird, Chief of Schools, for the record. The December 23rd PD day. Let's take that one first. So we have the way our contracts are structured. We have the school year is from August 15th to June 15th. That's the way the contracts are structured. So we have to. That means that teachers have to end their work year by June 15th. They have to go to. They work one extra day after school is out. So that means that the last effective day of school is June 14th. That PD day was put in that day. You can't move it from that day because of the way Christmas falls. The 23rd is a Monday, the 25th is a Wednesday. So, and kids come back to school January 2nd. So the only other place you could put it is January 1st, which we can't make people come to work on New Year's Day. So, and I can't put it somewhere else because you're right, it's a teacher work day, but that means the students aren't coming to school. If I put another day somewhere else, that's a day that students will be off and they will not meet the required 180-day school year. If we go beyond the June 16th date, there's a financial penalty to the district. And speaking with our chief financial officer, depending on how many days you go over, it's a couple $1 million a day due to the structure of the contracted work year. That's why the December 23rd day is there as a PD day.
And there's no, I know there's a lot of half days for things, and I don't know it nearly how you do. And there's no, my concern is that it is a check on the box when it's a Monday, the 23rd before Christmas, and is it going to be a productive PD?
Correct. Right. And so the half days count as full school days. So those don't. So in the contract, there are a certain number of full day PD days that have to be we have to put in the calendar. 4 of them occur before school starts. The week before school starts, then there's a reorganization day, and then there are days spread throughout the school year. So in order to not be in violation of the collective bargaining agreement, we have to have a certain number of full day PDs. It really is a function of the date ending the school year by June 15th.
Just the second
And
question.
the second question.
Yeah.
So regarding the 2021 school year, I want to remind the members of the board that we had a survey that we did. Over 6,400 people respond to that survey. The top priority on that survey was to have breaks throughout the year, and specifically mentioned was spring break and Christmas break. In this current school year, we had 7 days for the winter break. The next school year, we'll have 8 days off. And then the following school year, there'll be 10 days off. Chief Lynch has made a request of the city regarding food services for that time. And we're also looking to expand our backpack program. I know that her office is working on that project as well. As a result of, we've gotten some additional feedback. Beyond the committee that met, we went and got some additional feedback from different groups of parents. As a result of this process this year, we're going to be doing a couple of things. We're going to add the school name on the survey so that we can find out who is not responding, areas of the city that are not being responded, so that we can then go and engage those people in areas of the city that we didn't get a lot of responses from in neighborhoods in the future. That was not on the survey this year. We also are going to bring the committee together this spring to start working on the survey to make sure the questions that we're asking are understood by everyone and understood by a variety of people, so we can get an earlier start on the 21-22 school year calendar. And as a result of doing additional outreach this year, just through connections in the community, I've gotten a lot more people on the committee that represent much more diversity in the city. So going forward, we will have a much larger calendar committee, and that's where we stand for this. So we have not received a response from the city yet regarding the request that we've made, but we have time to work with them still on that issue.
Are there any other comments or questions?
I guess
Dr.
I'm
McGinley?
most concerned about the item 35, which is the adoption of the 2021 calendar, adoption of the 2021 calendar, and based on what Dr. Bird just said, that we don't have information back from the city. Also concerned about some of what Ms. Thompson raised earlier in the meeting about that wide break, and I'm wondering if we could delay voting on item 35, the 2021 calendar, until we get some additional information. Would that present problems, Dr. Height?
That does not. No.
Okay.
Is there
But we do need a vote on next year's calendar.
I
Yes.
agree.
all right, we can hold then, that's action item,
35.
oh, motion. We need a motion to table item
35.
35. Is there a motion to table item 35?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, we'll take a voice vote. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, action item 35 is tabled. Are there any other comments on items 25 through 38?
I wanted to just make a comment in regard to the items, and I'm having trouble finding one of the items, item 30, and yeah, I think it was 30, in regard to trauma-informed care and training, which I am, as a child abuse pediatrician, very much in favor of. I think we need to look more comprehensively at our approach as a district and to make sure that all schools are receiving appropriate training. But I had some questions about the programs that we're choosing and why we were choosing them. I apologize, I got sick and had to leave before the Scholastic Achievement meeting. Even if we can't flush this all out tonight, would hope that we can have that specifically on agenda for a Scholastic Achievement Committee meeting at a later date. But I'm just wanted to get a little bit more information on how the programs are chosen, and again, are these evidence-based programs that we've chosen?
You want to introduce yourself and...
Good evening. For the record, I'm Karen Lynch, Chief Student Support Services. Regarding action item number 30 specifically, this is an action item that seeks to provide trauma-informed care in 4 schools that are implementing PBIS. And the positive behavior interventions and supports effort is evidence-based, and the training that is going to be provided, the trauma-informed training, is also evidence-based. The action item, the provider of the service for the trauma professional development was procured through a RFP process. What is interesting here, I think, and important to point out, is that this is part of a much larger demonstration project that's being implemented in these 4 schools. So this isn't a packaged product that we are purchasing. This is instead part of a larger demonstration effort where we are, for the first time, as a result of an evaluation that we conducted on our implementation of PBIS, we recognize that not including with that implementation a large effort related to trauma reduced the significant impact that we might have. And that was the result of the evaluation of our PBIS implementation. So the researcher who's been working with us on our implementation, who evaluated our PBIS implementation, suggested, and we agreed, that to be able to incorporate intensive trauma-informed training would be valuable. We submitted a proposal with Penn and our researcher and several other partners to NIJ. It was approved, and this is a section, if you will, of that implementation. Yes, it's part of a much larger effort that's going to take place over the next 2 years, and it's in these 4 schools, and it involves training that will be given to not just the school-based staff, it's the educators as well as those individuals throughout the entire school, including the school police officers in those 4 schools, and coaches that have been hired through the larger proposed grant.
Are there any other questions on these matters? We have a motion, I believe, and a second to consider items 25 through 38. We've tabled item 35, so that won't be part of the consideration. If there are no more comments, Ms. Rock, would you please call?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. On items 25 through 34 and 36 through 38, Ms. Danzy?
Yes.
Ms. Ahaya Hinton?
Yes.
Ms. Fix Lopez?
I'd like to vote yes on everything except no on 34. I think professional development is critical. We have very limited time with it. I completely respect and understand what Dr. Bird is saying about the constraints, but I feel like voting yes for it is saying we don't, in a sense, really need the PD day because it's not going to be productive. I'm sorry?
The vote. We've had the discussion.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to explain my no vote, but I've lost my train of thought, so we'll just leave it at that.
We'll take it as a simple no vote.
Okay, so that was a yes on everything except for no on 34?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Huang,
Yes.
thank you. Dr. McColgan?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. McGinley, and I understand you're standing on 31.
Yes, yes on everything except item 31, with a contract with Temple University because I'm an employee of Temple University.
Okay, thank you. Dr. McIver?
Yes.
Vice President Walker?
Yes.
Thank you. And President Wilkerson, I understand you're also abstaining as to 31.
Yes, I'm a Temple employee as well. I vote yes as to the other items.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. We will now hear from speakers registered on general topics. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. When the red light comes on, your time is up. Yellow light, you have 30 seconds to go. Up to 4 speakers will address the board on each topic and have been registered on a first-come, first-served basis. Ms. Rao, please call the next 5 speakers.
Thank you. Would these speakers please come and sit in the front 2 rows? Kelly Woods, J.C. Huff, Kristen Deppenschmidt, Lauren Murphy Sands, and Robin Roberts. And if Kelly Woods could please come to the front. Okay, Kelly Woods is not here. Is J.C. Huff here? Kristen Deppenschmidt?
Good evening, Dr. Height and members of the School District of Philadelphia Board. My name is Kristen L. Deppenschmidt. I'm a 16-year employee of the School District of Philadelphia. I am a 16-year proud autistic support teacher for Kensington High School. I am here to speak on behalf of the lack of one-to-ones for students with autism. One-to-ones provide guidance for children to stay focused on academics by helping them find the right book or page or follow instructions. One-to-ones also help manage behaviors by implementing behavior plans. One-to-ones help children negotiate, travel, from class to class. One-to-ones add social learning by encouraging group play, conversation in lunchrooms and playgrounds. One-to-ones help therapists. One-to-ones support families with the educational growth of students. I'm here speaking on behalf of my students, the parents of my students, my coworkers, my administration, and myself. I cannot provide the correct educational programming if I am being pulled in directions that I cannot be in. Direct instruction is being delayed, behaviors are flaring, and the other additional 8 students in my classroom are not getting their educational programming. The legal ramifications of not providing one-to-ones that are already written in IEPs is detrimental to the school district of Philadelphia. These are one-to-ones that have already been written in IEPs that have been approved. We've been lacking one-to-ones for over 2 years. We need our one-to-ones. We have parents that are worried about the potential growth that students will regress because they do not have the correct educational supports. I have parents that are worried about their students' self-esteem, and our workload is very, very high, which makes patience low. I am here tonight with my Kensington family to please have the board look at hiring and placing one-to-ones in the classrooms where they are needed. Please, please think about this. Thank you.
Would Lauren Murphy Sands come to the desk, please? And if Robin Roberts is here, please come to the front. I'm also going to call the next 5 people. Please head up to the front. Ella Schwab, Honey Paulus Bodine, Jessica Way, Imam Jamil Abdullah, and Nikki Shaletz. You can start. Thank you.
Good evening, School Board, Dr. Height. My name is Lauren Murphy Sands, and I represent Kensington Classic High School as the proud assistant principal. I'm here to discuss a critical need that has been ever present at Kensington Classic, the lack of candidates for the special education position, also known as one-to-ones. In my statement, I wish to make clear to you how deep this problem is, how it affects the variety of Kensington stakeholders, and some possible solutions to rectify this problem. I've been in constant communication with the talent department throughout the year. As responsive as this department is, they constantly have bad news for us regarding the one-to-one vacancies. Here's where we get to the crux of the problem. The SEA vacancies exist because the district doesn't have a pool of eligible candidates. The district doesn't have a pool of eligible candidates because the position is unfortunately underpaid and undervalued. A first-year one-to-one is slated to make $19,344 per year. Please remember that this is a full-time position for anyone with a family that is dangerously close to the poverty line. The importance of this position is immeasurable as they work with some of the most vulnerable students in our schools. Does that salary show that the school district values the important work of this position? As you have heard from my unbelievably hardworking staff, the lack of one-to-one significantly affects the students in need of the one-to-ones. However, the vacancies also have a radiating effect on the classroom environment. At Kensington, we have 4 students who are without one-to-one services as mandated by their IEPs. Some of these students have been without one-to-one assistance for nearly 2 years now. It is a dire situation. Let me paint a picture for you. Student N is a beautiful autistic student who is without one-to-one services. Her behaviors include self-stimming, hoarding food, and sometimes showing displeasure through loud guttural sounds. Ms. Deppenschmidt, my esteemed AS lead, has student N in her classroom. And despite the lack of support from one-to-one, she has developed systems and procedures in her class to help student N communicate her needs. Sometimes, though, a student comes in the morning fired up, and you just know it's going to be one of those days. Ms. Depp's students have a specialty class in which they work in the general education students for art and PE classes. Today, just today, Ms. Depp sacrificed her prep because she knew student N would need additional support and didn't have a one-to-one. Ms. Depp and her colleagues do things like this constantly. They sacrifice their time for the education of their students. That work rate is unsustainable. The dedicated teachers at Kensington make it happen because they have to, but it should not come to this. It is my job to make sure that my students are receiving the absolute best. I believe in being solution-oriented, and today I'm here to make our situation clear, but I also wanted to provide some possible solutions so that other schools don't face this problem. The very first one is to increase the salary of the position. Number 2, to work with local universities out of a strong education program to possibly pull from their student body the experience.
Thank you.
Robin Roberts. Is Robin Roberts here? Okay, Ella Schwab. Honey Paulus Bodine. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Height, and members of the school board. My name is Honey Paulus Bodine. I'm a teacher in Network 3. I'm going to try to be brief because I know you're all tired and everybody's worked hard today. I and we as teachers need your help, desperately. We're overwhelmed by excessive busy work. It's preventing us from doing the job we came to do. Teachers need time to meet with students, to call homes, to run clubs, to tutor, to lesson plan, to grade, and to meet with other teachers and our administrators to plan for the school. This extra work that we've been asked to do, told we have to do, takes away from that sacred but limited time. There's only 24 hours in the day. My high school body, which I'm proud to be a teacher at, consists of mostly college-bound students. They're fantastic. You saw them earlier today. We have one college counselor for 950 students. She sets up all the college trips, deals with all the college paperwork and the issues, as well as the psychosocial issues of our juniors and seniors. And we're talking teenagers, so you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, they need a lot. They're teenagers. No more said. So it's a lot. But it's hard, and she works really hard. And if you've ever dealt with the college paperwork, you know it's horrendous. So she is a busy woman. And I'm here for her, and I'm here for our students. Because in October, Kutztown University agreed to pay for a bus for a college visit. How wonderful was that? Fantastic. It was a win for our school because it saves us money we can use in other ways. Unfortunately, it took five submissions of the trip paperwork, after which it was still denied, given back 2 days before the trip was scheduled. 2 days. You can't even reschedule a bus. You need like a month. They were paying for this bus. The criteria for the trip kept changing. That was part of the submissions. Subsequently, we as a school had to pay for the trip. It was $1,300 that they were giving us to get a lot of our kids go to Kutztown. Okay, so a lot of our kids wanted to go, which is great. This is a lot of money that could have been spent on books. The counselor's time could have been spent helping seniors. The paperwork doesn't benefit our students. Please help us. Please fix the situation of the extensive paperwork. Teachers are being asked to write dissertations, not lesson plans or trip slips. We will lose teachers. We're losing teachers because the suburbs offer more money, more respect, less paperwork. It's too much. Help us. We want to spend time with the students. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Way. And if Imam Jamil Abdullah would come forward, and Dr. Nikki Schultz and Virginia Williams come to the front. Please start.
Hello, everyone. I stand in solidarity with my coworker at FLC,
Honey Polis Bodine and with Kate McCann as part of a group of schools from Network 3 that came together and started discussing because we were concerned about the extensive paperwork requirements that were happening in Network 3. Unfortunately, since our last conversation, those requests still kept coming in regards to lesson plan rubrics. And so a group of 150 teachers signed a letter to the school board that I will be submitting to you regarding this lesson plan rubric that we were still expected to use. And we were just asking for you to consider, with our increasing job expectations because of the decreasing amount of staff in our schools, what we can do to streamline our paperwork. We have, as Ms. Honey mentioned, excessive paperwork for field trips. We also have been asked by our network office to resubmit EC requests 5 to 6 times. So the music program you heard earlier today, we just received payment for the itinerant musicians involved in last year's spring musical within the past month, and our instrumental music teacher is still owed $2,000. And EC money he has been requesting for 10 months. He has resubmitted the paperwork 6 times and keeps getting told, nope, there's a new way that we are doing the paperwork now. I'm here because a lot of people are afraid to speak. Currently, I'm speaking on behalf of FLC, Ben Franklin, Moffitt, Ludlow, Meredith, and McCall, who all signed on this letter together, to say, please help us get some of this paperwork under control. And also, please help us who are speaking out about our need for this assistance to avoid retaliation and no longer have to live in a culture of fear for the things that we feel compelled to tell you. We appreciate your assistance in this matter, and we hope that you will be looking out for teachers so we can improve the retention rates that we currently have in Network 3. Thank you so much.
I had a question because you said to avoid retaliation, and can you clarify what you mean by that?
There are specific teachers within this group that when they have pushed back against the paperwork have received 204s, have been even recommended for one-day suspensions, and they have asked that I not bring them up by name because, again, they're afraid. Okay?
Just like, what took the submission for getting approval for things? What takes so long?
We don't understand ourselves. What we do is we fill out the cards the way we've been filling them out for years and submit them and then get told, no, you can't put all 5 people involved in this on one form. You have to put them on separate forms. So you put them on separate forms and you send them back in, and then they say, no, actually, we have had a change of policy. Could you go back to resubmitting it the way it used to be? This is like a new teacher who's going through this right now, and he's had to go to several weddings this year, and he's like, you know who could have really used $2,000? Me. So anything we can do to help our folks who are really just struggling right now with trying to streamline this process and be able to do their job, as painlessly as possible.
Jessica, can I just add, thank you for the comments, and thank you for coming in. And the first time we talked about lesson plans, and I thought this was resolved then.
Well,
but it will be resolved tomorrow. I can guarantee you that. And
thank you.
It will be proof, and all of you in Network 3 will get direction that then will discontinue the rubric and all of that other stuff we're asking you to do. On the bus stuff, it is once we had a terrible accident on 95 with the young people who were involved, we had to ensure that there were insurance that people met certain or had certain insurance for those buses. That's
Absolutely.
a part of it, risk management. That may be the young lady who spoke before you, your colleague. That could have been the holdup on the Kutztown visit, but we want to make sure we get that information to everybody so that everyone would understand the rationale in terms of what we're asking them to do, so they won't just keep completing the old forms and missing the requirements for that. So we'll work on that, and then I'd be glad. I'm very interested in hearing from your colleague who has had to submit the EC thing several times, and what we can do to help resolve that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Imam Jamil Abdullah. Nikki Schwartz. Okay, I'm going to call the next 5, please. Virginia Williams, Laquan Brewington, Eric Hall, Anthony Miller, and Tyrone Williams. Any of that group here? Okay, the next 5, Askia Baines, Kevin Adams, David Starling, Luke Zeller, and Colin Sharp. Any of you here? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Good evening. So first I want to thank Amir, Amiri, and Sam for speaking so thoughtfully about our community already. I am one of the founding teachers at SLA Bieber, and I wanted to submit our staff's concerns around the proposed policy to mandate the use of metal detectors at all Philadelphia high schools. SLA Bieber opened its doors at the start of the 2013-2014 school year, and since the very beginning, we have never used metal detectors. We believe that the lack of metal detectors is part of the culture of care and mutual respect that we have worked very hard to cultivate in our school. We are concerned that the mandated use of metal detectors would set our culture backwards by starting every school day with a process that unnecessarily criminalizes our students by telling them that they are not trusted and that our community is unsafe. Since our community has proven not to need them, what will this teach our students, of whom over 75% are black or brown, about their identity? Must we be forced to teach them that just on the basis that they live in Philadelphia, that they must be subjected to criminal checks every morning when they enter school to learn? Must we do this despite the fact that they have proven to be a community of students who care and respect each other? We are a school community in our 6th year, and not once have we fielded a concern or complaint from any school constituent about our lack of metal detectors. Parents, teachers, community members, and students have never brought this up. We have even started a 5th grade this year, and we will soon have grades 5 through 8 in our building. We do not want to have our 10 and 11-year-old students either going through or watching their high school mentors and role models pass through metal detectors every day. Our ability to choose not to use metal detectors is an important part of our school identity and sense of community. In addition to our concerns about how mandated metal detectors would negatively impact our school culture, there are practical reasons for us not to use them that are unique to us. We are located in Winfield, a section of West Philadelphia close to City Line Avenue. While we have students from the local community, we also have students from all corners of the city. We have students from North Philadelphia, the greater Northeast, Roxborough, South Philadelphia, Mount Airy, Center City, West Oak Lane, and several other neighborhoods from where our students travel great distances to attend school. These trips can take over 2 hours and involve 3 to 5 transfers each way. After these incredibly long journeys where students are just barely making it to school on time, must we add more time to their commute by having them pass through these metal detectors? As a school community, we have chosen not to use these metal detectors, and we want to continue to have that choice. We believe that the lack of metal detectors contributes to a healthier school environment that positions our students as students and learners first. We understand that this is an important operational decision for every school, and we are advocating for our right to make the decision that is best for our community and our context.
Thank you. For our record, oh, I'm sorry. Is that you're Luke Zeller? Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Earned his principal certification at Temple, by the way.
Julian Terrell, Teresa Kelly Rogerio, and Katie Miller, please come up to the front.
Colin's not here.
And, right, no, I called him before he wasn't here, yep. And Julian Terrell? Yep, thank you.
Hey, everybody. Okay, thank you for sticking around. Hello. I submitted official testimony. I'm not going to read off the full one. Thankfully, we've already heard from students and teachers that are directly impacted by Policy 805. So I'm going to refrain from speaking about the health impacts that I think that they've outlined. And I'm going to speak more specifically about our process proposal. When I think about emergency preparedness, I think about communication, I think about transparency, and I think about vision. Right? Anybody who has done work around emergency planning knows that effective training, right, communication, community building is essential. So if an emergency does come up, right, it's not just the people who are trained and empowered to respond, but you actually have a community response. This is something that has been used during hurricane seasons when we're talking about that scale of emergency. That's even been something that's been talked about, crime issues within a community, right? Given that this bill is being framed around emergency preparedness, I actually think it's really important to be able to pull out some of those lessons in how we deal with emergencies. You've heard several students here today and several students who are not represented. When they heard about this bill, they were confused because when they think about safety, they're not thinking about metal detectors. They're not thinking about the increased presence of police. They're thinking about being able to go to a school where a roof is repaired, but they're actually told about it. We understand that there's more than 40 schools that are on a list to be abated and have not been given updates. So I want to be able to speak about a precedent that oftentimes if we come to the school board meeting or if we go to a presentation of Dr. Height, we can hear about it. But there's oftentimes a larger student body, there's a larger community of parents who don't have the ability to be able to come here. So one of the things that I wanted to propose, and it's in my testimony, is something that we're considering around risk assessment. Whenever there is something that is going to be added as far as new security, new policing presence, and specifically spending of money, right? I think that this is something that we need to be able to go to the school community directly and give people the opportunity to be able to weigh in. Right? I think the public forum is a sacred space, and even in the changes from the school board, from the SRC, I think this process has been a lot more transparent and a lot more open. However, I do think that we're missing a very important step, is that if we're claiming to be able to provide safety for a school, it's actually a genuine step and an essential step to be able to go to them first. Okay? So anything that's based around spending and increasing the infrastructure, there needs to be a risk assessment attached to that first before we even get brought to the board. That is something that is in power for you, not just around school safety, but just in the general nature of how the school district deals with decisions. Thank you. I'm also going to submit a packet. This is full of testimonies for students that were not allowed to testify tonight. I'm going to say that again for students that were not allowed to testify tonight. Please check in with that. I would also like to put on record that the Lieutenant Pateki, he's in the white shirt standing in the back. The treatment of students in this building tonight is appalling. It's been appalling. For any officer who's in this room, they need to be accountable to you, Dr. Height.
Thank you. Dr.
Thanks, Julian. Thank you for that, Julian. And we talked about that at the back. And so the other thing is, I think that it's one thing that you said in your testimony. I want to make sure we provide some clarification on it. The process for lead abatement actually does include a lot of conversation with the community before that project begins.
Yes.
And
that's because, I'm sorry, that's because the risk assessment is already written into environmental law, right? That component, when you start talking about other forms of safety, that's not something that's codified.
No, I'm just making a point because you said people were not notified, and I want to make sure I just clarified that they are a part of the process when we go in and do lead abatement. And to your other point, it is valid, and we have to look at, and we'll continue to look at, because we do that. We continue to look at how we involve the broader community because we do a lot of those trainings all the time.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thanks.
But make sure it gets put on record, the presence and the practices of the police in this building tonight, because it's appalling.
Thanks.
Teresa Kelly Ruggiero, please.
Hi, my name is Teresa Kelly Ruggiero, and I'm proud to be a teacher at Lewis Elkin Elementary in Kensington as part of the dual language program. I know that this fall some of you have seen firsthand the dedication of Elkin's dual language teachers and the commitment our principal has to supporting this program. Research shows that dual language programs increase academic achievement for English language learners in math and reading, and make students and their families feel more welcome in school since their home language and culture are valued. Studies show that this combination of success and achievement in school and feeling valued as an individual leads to a drastic decrease in the dropout rate for Latinx students in high school, an important finding when the graduation rate of Latinx students here in Philadelphia is 60.95%, which is below the citywide rate of 67%. As a district, we need to continue to support and grow the dual language program. That is why I thank you for voting no on the charter school applications presented today, so that instead of committing millions of dollars towards potentially enrolled students in these new charters, we can dedicate that money to the over 1,000 students currently enrolled and served by the dual language programs, with more classes being added at 3 schools next year. I want that money to go towards teacher recruitment and retention for highly qualified bilingual teachers to staff and grow our dual language programs. I know of a current 5th grade dual language class that has had 6 different teachers in the past 2 years, including 3 non-Spanish speaking subs. I know that this is not isolated to the dual language program in our district, where there are 94 of the 224 district schools that have at least 1 teacher vacancy. But it is a disservice to our students and their families to make a commitment to offering a bilingual program of instruction and not having the teachers to meet that need. I want that money to go towards hiring Spanish-speaking school psychologists so that I do not have students waiting months or over a year for the evaluation process to be complete for their IEP, since there is no one available to evaluate them in Spanish. I want that money to go towards bilingual special education teachers to give those students the services that they deserve. And I want that money to go towards expanding the program beyond 4th and 5th grades so that the students can gain the benefits attributed towards continued enrollment in dual language programs in the middle years and beyond. Thank you.
Katie Miller. Is Katie Miller here? Okay, and our last 2 speakers also are not here, so thank you.
I want to thank all of our registered speakers. On behalf of the board, I'd like to also invite you to our next committee meetings. On March 14th, the Finance and Facilities Committee will meet at 10 a.m., the Policy Committee will meet at 1, and Student Achievement Committee will meet at 5. All committee meetings will be held in the board committee room downstairs in Suite 101. If you want to know what's going to be going on, their agendas, visit the website for the full calendar and agendas. Our next action meeting will be held in this room on March 28th at 5 p.m. I now move to adjourn this meeting of the Board of Education. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Yes. Thank you, and the Board of Education action meeting is adjourned. Oh my God, I'm so tired.